Hi, I'm Debbie Hawley, Chairperson of the St. Lucie County School Board. It's a pleasure for me to welcome you to this opportunity to get to know the best of the best. Teachers that have been nominated by their peers for the honor of 2014 Teacher of the Year. Please enjoy this opportunity to get to know them, and I know you will feel as I do, that we are surrounded by wonderful professional educators in St. Lucie County.
Hello everyone, welcome to week 4 of our introduction to the candidates for the 2014 St. Lucie County Teacher of the Year. Our first guest today is from Southport Middle School. She is a 7th grade language arts teacher, Kimberly Nicholas, and her principal, Lydia Martin. Thanks to the both of you for being here with us this evening.
Sure.
It's been a long day, I'm sure, and so appreciate the time that you take to be here. So, 7th grade language arts, what is it that you really, and I don't know, have you taught other grades before, or has this always been pretty much where you've been?
I taught 6th grade language arts for 2 years, and this is my first year teaching 7th grade language arts.
Has that been here in St. Lucie County or elsewhere?
Mm-hmm.
So this is your third year of teaching?
It is.
Okay. Did you grow up here, or are you from?
I grew up in Palm Beach County.
Okay.
And just kind of slowly moved north. I've lived in Hope Sound and lived in Martin County, and now I live in St. Lucie County.
Well, good. Well, we're glad to have you here. I'm sure
you.
that your principal feels the same way.
Absolutely.
I'm happy to be here.
Well, with your being in 6th grade and knowing with our core curriculum and with our scope and sequence, you pretty much know what you're going to get with the students when they come to 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it that you are trying to instill in the students? Either is it more literature, is it more grammar, is it more comprehension? What are the real skills that you focus on in 7th grade in language arts?
Well, with the focus on writing and language arts, it's mostly about elaborating. It's about the thinking and drawing on their background knowledge and being able to incorporate everything that they know and follow through with their ideas in a focused way in their essays.
So it says is more essay kind of writing, that's okay,
yes.
Research and then doing the essay, or reading and then doing the essay?
A little of both. Earlier in the year we did research with the DAR essay. And they were researching.
Right.
They were able to choose a specific person to write about and did research, and now the writing, they'll get a writing prompt and they are to
expound upon it and whatever their experience is.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's what writing is all about. It's expressing your feelings and being able to connect whomever you're. I have to make my grammar correct for the English. To whomever you're writing.
Exactly. Recognizing who your audience is and what they will relate to, and just being able to come up with many ideas to fill up an essay. I think that's the main.
Right.
The main struggle with a lot of them.
Do you find, and of course 7th grade students are just getting to where they're old enough to be able to have social media at their fingertips. Do you find that the abbreviations and things like that, does that creep into their essay writing? And that's so disappointing.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
Yes, but I try to make a little bit of a joke of it when they write your and they write you are.
You are, yeah.
Or they call me you.
Yeah,
with a little
U. Yeah, or the numeral 2.
Yes.
But it's
we talk about it, and we talk about how that's a shortcut for their texting, but absolutely not for their writing.
Right,
and they agree.
Yeah, and so the first part of the year is you said the research, like they would research about a person. And now, do every one of the students in your classroom participate in the DAR essay piece?
They do.
Is that true for all 7th grade, or is it just your classroom?
It's all 7th grade at our school.
In fact,
it's a school
all language arts at our school.
Oh,
and
okay.
Civics,
it's a big thing
project.
at your school. I mean, at Southport. I know, because I get things for Lucy Lake all the time about that. So it's a real focus. Why do you think it's important to participate in that project with DAR?
Well, it's important. It focuses on the American Revolution and how we became the free country that we are, and how we have the rights that we have today. So it's important for them to realize what the alternative is and how important it is for us to maintain our democracy
Right. And I know, don't you have Holocaust speakers come to your school and they can do like a compare and contrast?
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
they, so when you visit Ms. Nicholas' classroom, what do you see besides students feverishly writing? Do they have to use pen and paper, or do you have okay. So, all right. So what do you see when you visit her classroom?
I see the students excited and engaged. Miss Nicholas really spends a lot of time collaborating with her colleagues to really plan engaging lessons for the students, and they have to keep it fresh and make it interesting and exciting, because who wants to come in and just write for 45 minutes? So
See, I would.
most kids don't. So really, bringing in different things to make it interesting and fun for them to write as well, so that when the reader is reading it, it's exciting for them as well. And I know that's one of the things they really focus on, is changing it up. It not only makes it better for the reader, but it's more exciting to write when you can add different details and different techniques and strategies.
Mm-hmm. And do you talk about, Ms. Nichols, the difference? I mean, we talked about the texting, obviously, and that's a different. But there's different kinds of writing. You have your technical writing, and you have your narrative, and then you have your comical. So they kind of compare and contrast those kinds of writing. Or those genres, I guess
They do, and we absolutely focus on each throughout the year. We've gone through a stretch where we've focused on the expository writing, and they're explaining, and that's a carryover from the 6th grade. So they focus on that primarily throughout 6th grade, so it's been interesting for me and exciting to see them come from 6th grade and move into 7th grade expository writing, pick up where they left off and keep on going. And we've done how-to technical writing as part of expository. Right now
that's tough. I mean, technical writing is tough.
It is.
Because it's not just imparting information, but it's imparting it in a way, like you said, know who your audience is. How do they do with that?
They did very well with it. We did a how-to essay where they were to choose something that they do well and enjoy doing and explain how to do it. But
that's interesting.
Were not allowed to just list the steps. It had to be interesting.
Right.
So they had to include personal experience, and they had to include
like how to serve.
Yeah,
maybe something like that.
A couple of them did write how to serve. And it had to be written interestingly, but in a fashion that somebody could read it and follow the instructions.
Right.
So it was definitely a challenge for them.
Someone like me who's never served. I mean, I've tried, but I wasn't successful.
Exactly.
So maybe I could read one of theirs and figure out, oh, I forgot that step.
You absolutely could. I've got some very good information from reading those essays.
Do you find that they're interested in learning new words and did they really, there's so much pressure on 7th grade age, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids, because they're burgeoning teenagers or, high school kids, but they're still young. They're right at that precipice. You either go this way or they go that way. Do you find they like to learn new things, or they're starting to close their mind off to things?
I think they thrive on learning new things. Anytime I introduce something new and different, they perk up a little. And they like to learn new words. They come across words that they're not familiar with in their reading, and they'll bring me a book and ask me, what is this word? And so definitely they're open to all of it still.
Right. And so when they come to you and say, what is that word, what do you say to them?
Well, I tell them what the word is, and we talk about the word, because the conversation's about the words.
Right.
I mean, connotation is a big thing with me, because you can choose a word that means, vaguely, generally, what you're trying to talk about, but you can get more specific by choosing words with just the right connotation. So we talk about all of those things.
Right. Now, we've been talking about writing a whole lot. Is that what percentage of the curriculum in 7th grade would you say is really writing and the mechanics of it and how to do it well?
I would say in the 90s percent of it. Yes.
And then FCAT writing is tested in 7th grade as well, just like 4th grade, or is it not? Okay, it's just
they're tested FCAT writing in the 8th grade.
8th grade. Okay, yes. I wasn't sure whether it was 7th grade or 8th grade.
Florida writes.
Florida
in the 6th
okay.
and 7th grade.
Is it? And do they have a narrative as well as an expository in 8th grade?
In 8th grade, they may get expository. They may get persuasive.
Persuasive. That was
I don't
the other
know.
one.
Could they possibly get narrative also?
No, so just persuasive or expository. So what you're doing is giving them the foundation for the expository and the persuasive, because you have to use the right words. And you have to know your audience to be able to explain right to them.
You have to know your purpose for writing.
Exactly, exactly. Tell us what excites you about teaching and maybe why you got into teaching in the first place.
It excites me to see them learn something that I am so interested in. I love the English language. I love to read. I love to write. And it's exciting to see them take something that's rather abstract and develop a skill at it. Be able to put their thoughts on paper when they thought that they couldn't or they really struggled. When they finally come up with that final product, to see the pride.
Right. Are there strategies that you use in terms of, you know, thinking maps and Venn diagrams and using those things of what's kind of the same and what's different to enrich their writing?
Well, we use Write for the Future, which is a series of planning and writing an essay with the thinking maps. So we use a classifying map to get focused on whatever it is that they're going to write about, identify their purpose for writing, and identify their audience. And then they'll brainstorm with a thinking map. And then there's a FLEA map, which is a combination of flow map and a classifying map, and they start to plan their paragraphs that way. So they sort of lay it out on paper before they have to write it. It just shows them a different way to maybe picture it, maybe see it before they have to actually write the essay.
Right. Now, when you were deciding where you wanted to go to college and what you wanted to do, was teaching something that was in the forefront, or were you maybe thinking about being a professional writer, or how did that come about?
Well, I always did want to be a teacher from early on. I can remember wanting to teach. And I got a job in banking while I was in college. I worked part-time in banking, and I just, I went through school and I enjoyed writing, so I got into communications, thinking I might move into journalism, but I just stayed with banking even after I graduated from college, and I actually worked in the banking industry for about 15 years.
Oh, wow.
So just kind of made a career there, and then made another career change, and ultimately I found it was the right time about 5 years ago to focus on that teaching that I had always wanted to do.
Well, and that's great, because then you can share your love of that experience of writing. And, I don't think there's anything as cathartic as writing can be, even if you're not writing about yourself, but that you can express yourself in ways. Are you like me, that you do the crossword puzzle every day?
No.
Try to.
I don't. I'm not really a puzzle person.
No. I just find it helps me with words. But and then what you enjoy the most about teaching is seeing them excel, or take what you've taught them and apply it in a real word fashion. Yeah.
Academically, and I also enjoy seeing them grow socially. And
oh, yeah.
Just as people. They do so much changing at this point in their lives.
Right.
And just to help them interact with each other, interact with adults in a way that's appropriate and
right.
productive for them.
Well, and I know that people talk about middle school kids. Oh my gosh, middle school kids, they're like this. They are. But that's what's so exciting about them. They change every day, and they grow in front of you.
They change throughout the day.
That's right. Are there any other roles that Ms. Nicholas plays at Southport Middle School? I mean, the DAR is huge. I mean, it's huge because it's so important at your school.
Yes, she is a mentor for a student. We have some students that we identified early on in the year that we felt like would really benefit from having a one-on-one adult mentor. So she stepped up and volunteered to do that. She also serves as a mentor for a brand new teacher. And she has been serving as our Common Core liaison, bringing information back to teachers, to the staff in regards to changes that are happening with that. She also serves on our building level planning team. So she wears a lot of different hats.
Lots of different hats.
She's just really very quickly become a really important part of our staff, and has just found her way in very quickly and gained the respect of her colleagues as well.
Well, obviously she was elected to represent them for Teacher of the Year, so thanks for taking the time to come up here. It's been a pleasure just to chat with you and talk to a fellow writer. And thanks, Ms. Martin, as always, for being here.
Sure, thank you.
We're going to be right back with another teacher, so please stay tuned.
If you're looking for a new pet that you can cherish every day, consider adopting from a shelter. Shelters are full of healthy, loyal, fun, loving pets, eager to become a part of your family. A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. So bring home your new buddy today. To find out more, you can visit theshelterpetproject.org.
And welcome back. And now with us from St. Lucie Elementary is Emily Berry, who is a kindergarten teacher. And welcome to the program, and congratulations for representing your faculty.
Thank you.
And also Bernadette Floyd, our friend, who's been doing this before. So welcome back to the studio.
And I'm glad to be back.
Tell us a little bit about you, maybe where you grew up, and if you always wanted to be a teacher, if this is something that was your life's plan.
Okay, I'm originally from Iowa.
Oh, okay.
And I originally wanted to teach in Chicago, actually, and I went to a job fair there and got hired by St. Lucie County up there, and decided
little
to move
different,
down.
Chicago.
Yeah, so I moved down sight unseen, and I've been here for, this is my 8th year in the district.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Have you always taught kindergarten?
Kindergarten, first grade, and pre-K ESE.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, do you have an ESE class now?
I have
Or is this
an integrated class.
an integrated classroom. Okay. So when you were growing up in Iowa, and where in Iowa?
North Central Iowa, very small
Oh,
town.
town that
Yeah,
probably
I had
wouldn't
40
know
kids
about.
in my graduating class.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So.
Did you have a great school experience, though,
Yeah.
which was maybe what prompted you to want to do the same
We
thing?
had a K-12 school, so,
Oh.
you know, you just knew all your teachers like, really well and developed a lot of relationships. So
It's like a family environment.
Oh, definitely, because you know them like from kindergarten, and then you could go in their classrooms and help out as you know, were going through the grades, and it was great. So.
Do you have any family here, or is it just you?
No, it's just me and my husband. Yeah.
Now, did he come down at the same time you did, or you met him here?
I met him here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And you're going to have another Berry here before long.
Yeah, in March.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So tell me what you enjoy about teaching kindergarten. I mean, is it something that you really love, kindergarten, or is it just, yeah?
Yeah, kindergarten is like my favorite grade to teach. Not that I've done a huge variety of
Right.
them, but I really enjoy just like their enthusiasm for school and just for learning, and they're like so excited when they get something, and they don't get too down on themselves if they don't have
Sure.
it yet, because they're they think they're pretty awesome about everything,
exactly.
you know. So they do, you know, they're just so happy to be here, and I, you know, it makes my job easy. So.
Now, when you have, and I'm sure you do have a pretty wide variety of skill levels.
Yeah.
Some maybe you've had a pre-K experience, some maybe not. Some may have had, you know, parents that spend a lot of time with them, some maybe not. So how do you kind of blend all that together and try to get everybody kind of to the same point at the end of the year?
I think it's important to kind of have the same high expectations for all the kids in your class, and just expect that they're going to do the best that they can do to the best of their ability. You know, not every kid is going to do the same exact thing, but I think it's really important to set high expectations for each individual kid. And I also use a lot of peer tutoring in the class, so those higher kids can still be challenged. They get to work with the lower kids and help
nice.
them, and I think that helps to build the classroom community too, because
Sure.
you know, they're not always asking me. So.
Right, exactly. What about students who come to you, Emily, that don't have a command of the English language yet? They probably, Spanish may be spoken at home, not much English. How do you manage to get them to where they have to understand what you're saying before they can learn it? So what do you do to be able to reach those children?
Well, in kindergarten, you kind of use the same strategies that you use with all your kids. You know, you're using the active voice and like really getting them into like when you're doing stories, and you know, and introducing them to the vocabulary before you introduce a lesson, and also hands-on materials that really help them to grasp the concept. And you know, it's more concrete that way than using that abstract just language all the time.
Oh, that makes sense.
So,
because it's right there in
and
front
lots
of
of
them.
visuals are very helpful.
Manipulatives like and colors and things
Right,
like that.
right.
And I imagine that the parent nights are very important to you as well.
Yeah, we've done several at our school.
I know you have.
Yeah.
That's why I said that. So, Ms. Floyd, when you visit Emily Miss Berry's classroom, what do you see in that classroom? You've got 20, maybe 20 kindergartners or 18 kindergartners who are all over the place.
Yeah. You see calmness. That is the word that I associate with Emily. Kids understand routines and procedures. They are always in place. They really can, to be honest with you, this time of year, she has some leaders in her class that can actually lead.
5-year-old leaders.
Can lead a lesson with kids. Some basic things.
Sure.
Read to self. They work together when they're writing. They work well independently. And I know that she's not going to toot her own horn, but she does have kids that are challenging in her class as well. And when they first come to school, I mean, it's a big challenge. But you would never be able to pick them out at this point, at this time in the year. And so she has a quiet way about her. She doesn't ever have to raise her voice. It's the same all the time. And the kids respect that and respond to it. And I think the other thing I look at with Emily, she knows how to develop those relationships with children. And I think that is very critical at this age because, as you already shared, that some of our students don't come to us with background knowledge of our language, and she has patience, and that's what it really takes to work in kindergarten.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Even in the best of circumstances.
Yes.
In the best of circumstances. But from what I understand, and I've never been a kindergarten teacher, but that children of that age pick up language quickly. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because they don't have, especially if they don't have that many words of their native language. But is that true that they pick up language very quickly at that age?
Oh, definitely. They're little sponges, Like I hear, even some of my kids who don't speak English as their first language, I'll hear them saying things that I say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. With the same inflection.
Yes. So you're like, oh,
they're little copycats. Yeah. So, gotta be careful.
Kind of just using that teacher language, which is kind of
nice
that's
to
cute.
See. That's cute.
Yeah.
What is it that you're really teaching them right now, Emily?
Well, kindergarten has changed.
Yeah,
even since I started teaching only 9 years ago. But we're doing a lot of higher level stuff. A lot of critical thinking and
how critical can a 5-year-old think?
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Like just and this is a thing with our Common Core now, our new curriculum, is that we just the expectations are so much higher, and it's amazing just giving them those expectations that they can really reach them. And, like my kids are able to write sentences already in kindergarten. They're able to start reading some simple sentences. It's really amazing what they can do.
And what I really love hearing you say is that some of those children who are further along the learning spectrum, they're bringing the other children along. That they're in the best way to learn something is to teach it. I mean, that's what we hear. So it'd be really fun to see that kind of an experience for it. Benefits both sides of the equation. So what I'm hearing a lot is building community, building relationships. So is that as important as the academic piece?
I think you almost have to have that first before you can get to the academic. A lot of the students might come from difficult situations, and they have to have that trust in you and in their classmates before they're willing to try to do some of the harder academic things.
True.
Like if they don't feel like they're comfortable in the classroom, they're not as willing to, try to and maybe make a mistake.
Sure.
Because they feel like they might be made fun of or whatever.
Right.
So if you build that community first, I see that they're a lot more willing to meet your higher expectations.
Right. And it's
too.
a consistency thing too.
Oh.
Like what Mrs. Floyd was describing you, that you're calm, that you're always there, and that especially if you're that young and you're afraid of being made fun of if you make a mistake and you don't speak very well. And I bet it's really rewarding and interesting at the same time to watch the dynamics of the kids as they grow and change and learn and gather new information around them.
Yeah, I've been amazed this year, especially at just the relationships that are being built in my class, and they're so good about helping each other, and and academically and socially, or they're really working hard on building those relationships with each other this year. So,
with your being there so many years, but are there other roles that Miss Berry plays at St. Lucie Elementary aside from just being a tremendous kindergarten teacher?
She's an active member of our building level planning team.
Okay.
She does things with the PBS and contributes greatly with that. I can call on her to do something special, like with our school improvement plan, you know, generating ideas. One of the things too with Mrs. Berry, she's one of the leaders of our kindergarten team because the majority of our people are brand new.
Oh, wow.
So I'm just trying to think. I think we just have the two.
Three of us.
Three of you. And so she's mentoring some of the teachers in kindergarten. And, you know, that's really a big help when you really have new teachers that come into your grade level, no experience, and she's there to share that. And she mentors, she helps them. It's just been really, really rewarding to have her to be part of that.
Right. So when you're talking with those, they're first-year teachers, they're kindergarten teachers, and they're where they've got a wide variety of skill levels of students that are coming to them. What do you say to help them? What are the things that you target? What are they? I mean, I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, how do you help these young people?
Well, I think it's a case-to-case basis,
Sure,
of course.
sure.
But we've been working a lot on classroom management and also just the different expectations in kindergarten because, you know, they might come in thinking, oh, you know, we're going to be play centers and this kind of stuff. And kindergarten's
Not
a whole different world anymore.
No nap time.
So, yeah, so just kind of helping them to realize that, you know, kindergarten's a little different world right now.
Yeah,
so.
there really is some academia that's expressed in kindergarten. And when you say they're writing, and I'm entranced by that. So, do they make up sentences as they go along, or they're copying what they've read, or, in other words, I guess, are they writing expressively about themselves? I can't get over that for a 5-year-old.
Yeah, one of our goals that we're working on is writing to tell about something, and so every day I have them write sentences. They can pick whatever they want to write about because I find that that's more inspiring to them than me giving them a topic.
Sure. And
so they get to pick whatever they want to write about, and they have to write a sentence.
About themselves.
Yep, it is.
Because that's what they know.
It is, but, you know, and we're working on, you know, adding your character and your details to your sentence and your picture and making sure there's a verb in there and some describing words.
And they know what a verb is?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Kindergarten ain't
It's
one of these. It's not your grandma's kindergarten. It's
No.
Well, if I could just share this too, I wasn't in Emily's class, but another kindergarten's class, and it really just shows you how we have evolved academically and with curriculum. The kids are working on contractions, and I was there amazed because I'm thinking, I know I wasn't doing contractions in kindergarten.
Probably
but the
third or
kids
fourth
are
grade.
picking it up.
Yeah.
So, you know, we cannot have low expectations for students.
Right.
Because they will rise to it.
Right.
They just have to be taught. And really, when you're working with kindergarten, you have to have a good sense of developmental and where they are and when light bulbs go off. And this time of year, you start seeing that.
You know, it's funny you talk about contractions. If you think about it, let's take that apart. Let's diagram this sentence. They have to know what the two words are. And then they have to know that that apostrophe takes the place of a letter. That, like, do not, don't. You know, I mean, so that's heavy thinking for a 5-year-old.
It
when you
is
think
heavy.
about it. So they have to know both words and that little apostrophe means something.
And I love that they're using that academic language, too. Like
Apostrophe?
I mean, they can use comma, they can use digraph. That's one of their new favorite things that we've been using lately, you know, and instead of using the word like opposite, we're using antonym. And, like, it's just... Yeah, it's stuff that I don't think I learned until third grade.
I was going to say, I have a 6-year-old grandchild. I'd like to find out, you know, if they're doing that same thing. They're not here, so I don't know.
And, you know, that's really part of the Common Core. And kindergarten was introduced to Common Core last year. And this year it has taken off. And I would also say that Emily is one of the leaders, along with 2 other teachers, with collaborative planning. And you might want to kind of talk about that because that is really the cornerstone that we've used this year to really make sure that we're encapsulating and really looking at what Common Core is asking us to teach our kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're on.
Okay. Well, we've had the opportunity, thanks to our administration this year, to meet as a team and get a chunk of time to meet as a team. And we've been picking skills and being able to develop lessons and choosing the data that we want to use to grade the kids on. And it's been really helpful just to get on the same page as a team and really plan and how do we want to do this and what's going to be the best way to help the kids understand and grasp that concept.
Wow.
So it's really been great, and being able to plan out for the whole week, this is exactly what we want to do.
Right. And you know what I've been thinking ever since Common Core, the philosophy of it, and then the actual, the practical application, and Florida coming on board and all that. Wouldn't it be interesting to have students, even as young as kindergarten, be able to, well, you wouldn't, probably not going to be pen pal, because there'd be some kind of technology, you know, electronic way of communicating. Let's say even with first graders in your hometown in Iowa, because is Iowa one of the states participating? Do you know? Yeah, okay, because there's only a couple that aren't. But wouldn't that be great after we kind of all get on board and the train is chugging along, to be able to communicate with kids in other parts of the country to share, share activities and have classroom pals in Nebraska and North Carolina and whatever, and you're all doing the same thing pretty much. I mean, there will be local twists, I'm sure, but I just think that would be a very interesting.
I actually talked with my aunt about this. She teaches kindergarten in Minnesota, and we talked about getting on Skype and like having them like, this is what we're learning.
See, I was even in the writing part. Yeah, we'll go to the, our distance learning and that kind of thing. Well, it's been a real pleasure to have you here. Good to get to know you, and we'll have to hear about Baby Barry here before too long. Miss Floyd, my friend, always good to see you.
And it's good to see you too.
Thank you.
Okay.
And we'll be right back with another teacher, so please stay with us.
What does it take to start something? A little time. A little exercise. A little laugh. A little adventure. A little help. That's all it takes to make a big impact.
As he always talks about, he had people in his life that really helped him out, and he wants to be that person in my life.
Just like he is, I was like that at 14. I know exactly what it means to be a 14-year-old guy.
I think that's why we have a good relationship.
It's fun and cool and nice.
You get to see like how personality develops.
Our friendship is good.
At Big Brothers Big Sisters, a little bit of your support can go a long way towards making matches like these happen. Start something today at bigbrothersbigsisters.org/startsomething.
And welcome back. And now we have with us from St. Lucie West K-8, Claudia Martin-Veggie, who you're going to find out wears a myriad of hats, and even found out the second week of school she was teaching a whole other subject. And her principal is here with her, Pamela Dampier. And again, thank you, ladies, for taking the time to be here with us today.
Thank you. Well, thank you.
Let's hear a little bit about you first, Miss Claudia, as to maybe where you grew up and where you went to school.
I actually went to about 10 different schools within the 13 years of school. I was born in Bolivia, South America. We moved to Canada when I was little, when I was 1. I went to school in Canada for a little while, and then a couple of schools in Canada for a little while. And then we moved back to Bolivia for a year and a half, and then we moved to Miami, then to Puerto Rico, and then back to Miami. Then I finished school in Miami, went to Florida State, and then became a teacher.
Well, you have to be the master of adjustment or something.
Yeah,
you have to be a well-adjusted child to be able to make all those adjustments. Give us an idea of how do you think that may have benefited you in your teaching experience?
Well, to tell you quite frankly, one of the things I decided to do was become a special ed teacher to begin with, was because I understand how students go through school without knowing how to read. I did it for a year and a half. When we moved to Puerto Rico, my parents decided that was a great time for my brother and I to really learn Spanish, and they put him in the best all-boys school that was there, and they put me in the best all-girls school that was there. And they taught everything in Spanish, and I can communicate in Spanish, but I can't necessarily read at a higher reading level in Spanish. And the books that they were reading was El Cantar del Cid, which is basically like a Shakespeare-written book, but in Spanish. So I would get my mom to buy me the Cliff Notes version in English, and I would
then you translate.
Do the best I could, and I would be at the point where I can do all the multiple choice questions, and I just wouldn't get to the essay questions, was my excuse to the teacher at the time. And it wasn't for a good year that they didn't figure out that I couldn't read in Spanish. They
Wow.
used all American textbooks so I could read the English when the teachers were giving notes and oral notes in Spanish, because they would translate the textbook. I would take their notes and translate it and write it down in English. And I'd get, oh, why are you writing your notes in English as opposed to, here I'm taking the time. Oh, because the book's in English, so that I can match up the book with the notes that you're giving us. I always put it in English, and the tests were in English for major core subjects. The only one that would get me was the actual Spanish classes.
And how old were you at this time?
7th and 8th grade.
Middle school?
Yep. Wow. 12 and 13. So I understand how kids get through the system, because I did it for a year.
Well, I was just going to say, so you understand how they can hide a disability, or some difficulty in whatever it might be. Do you think that's given you the perspective of how to notice it?
Not only how to notice it, but also how to help students get around it. When they're having an issue or having a difficulty, what are some of the strategies that I used when I was having the difficulties? And I try to teach them some of those study skills and test-taking skills and whatnot. Because when push comes to shove, we're going towards more of a test-taking era. And if they don't know how to do tests correctly, they're going to be left behind the 8 ball.
It's funny you say that, because I know, just from my personal experience, I took 4 years of Spanish in high school. And in my 4th year of Spanish, because English is so, all over the place in terms of conjugation of verbs, but Spanish is so very, so in English class, if we were trying to conjugate a sentence and figure out what the verb structure was it past pluperfect or something like that, I would translate to Spanish, because then I'd be able to figure it out. It was so much easier in Spanish, because it was, a language like that. But you had the opposite, and so that was much more difficult for you.
Much more difficult.
Much more difficult.
Because I didn't, there was no rhyme or reason. And just learning algebra in Spanish really, really, I had to sit there and I had to analyze the word problems that they would give us orally.
And there might be intricacies of the language, like idiomatic expressions.
The only thing that saved me with that was that the textbook was in English. So whereas the teacher would give her examples in Spanish, as long as I could follow along that textbook, I would be okay.
Right. Wow. So that gives you a lot of insight into not only students with learning disabilities, perhaps, but also students that English is not their first language, so that, you cover that whole gamut.
Yeah, I can see it from their side, because in this case, it was me being the other way around. Spanish was my second language.
Right. So what are you teaching right now? What are your assignments?
Right now, I have a double block of Math 3, or pre-algebra, and intensive math, so I have those kids for a 90-minute block.
Okay.
And then after that, I have the honors algebra with the gifted kids. And that was the group that I got about a weekend, and because of scheduling issues and lunches and whatnot, I got those kids in a weekend. And it really is sometimes difficult to go from color coding and explaining everything to going through, and I want to, they challenge them, but I go to say, okay, well, this is how you do it. Oh, as soon as I say like the 1 or 2 things, I'm like, but I'm ready to color code it for you, and don't I need to? No, we got it. And I'm like, okay. Go ahead.
So you're having to keep up with them.
So it's just a different mentality. And now that we're into a harder level of the algebra, I do need to, and I think a lot of the color coding and a lot of the ESE skills.
The learning devices that you have,
they did really well on that last that benchmark exam, as far as I was concerned.
You're talking about your remedial students?
The honors students.
Your honors students, okay.
Bringing some of those skills in and helping them dissect the problems.
Right.
Because I'm looking at it, because this is a challenge, having them to keep up with a high school level curriculum. Teaching them with those skills helps them out and helps them understand it a little better, so I'm not doing a lot of reteaching with them, because I'm doing a lot of the forward teaching, doing a lot more front end teaching than having to remediate.
Right. Well, Ms. Dampier, when you go and visit Claudia's classroom, I'm sure it depends on which classroom you visit, I guess, but do you see the same kind of activity in both levels?
Well, the students are engaged. She has a smart board in her classroom. She uses that every single day. She infuses technology into her classroom. She has the smart pads as well in her classroom, and she uses a lot of hands-on, minds-on strategies. Great. She's also was one of those who volunteered when we implemented the learning goal to teach others. She actually volunteered so the district could come in, and we taped her and used that as a practice session for our teachers at our school. She volunteered because she wanted to make sure she got it right.
Absolutely.
That's the type of person she is.
That's wonderful. So, give us a little background. Was it because of I don't want to say the difficulties and struggles, because you obviously survived, but your experience, I guess, as a student who, as a child, moved around a lot. Did you want to become a teacher because of that?
Actually, it was because of a job that I had over the summer. I did summer camp. I grew up in the camp system, and when we were old enough, we volunteered at the camps, my brother and I. And
when you say camps, you mean summer camp?
Summer camps.
Okay.
And then through that, the love of working with kids came from that, and then it just stemmed into teaching during college.
So when you were in college, you taught?
Yes.
So and then we FSU, I think?
Yes, and during the summers, I'd go back to Miami and I would do summer camp with the kids, and it just was a natural flow from there to go from teaching them how to play games to teaching them academics.
Sounds to me like you were as much of a mentor as a teacher, because I imagine you have a lot of students that come to you for things other than academics.
In some cases, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. And it's helpful that I'm lucky enough that I'm at a K-8, that my daughters both were there. My one daughter finished up and is at Centennial now, and my second one's in 7th grade. So it's nice to see these kids, and I see them when I go to watch my daughters play soccer or different activities within the community.
Right.
So it's nice to have that other side to see the students at, too.
Right. So, and when, of course, you have the goals that you have to have students meet, or that you want students to meet academically. You want them to be at a certain level in their mathematics courses, but what other skills do you want them to take away once they leave your classroom?
Well, mainly the socialization skills. I do try to have them work in groups quite a bit, because in the workforce, you're not very necessarily sitting in a cubicle working on your own all the time.
Right.
You have to be able to work and do different jobs and be able to get along with people and just have an understanding and have a pride in themselves. A lot of the students that I have in my first 90-minute block are ones that just have low self-esteem because of the fact that they've been in intensive classes, and they're the ones that don't understand. Just helping them realize that they are smart students, that they are smart people, that their opinion does matter, that everybody needs to be heard is key for me. And if they can come out of there a little less math-phobic, I think I've done my job.
I like that, a little less math-phobic. Do you think they enter being math-phobic because they've been in remedial classes?
A lot of them do. And with test scores, as soon as they don't see that they've been, they have a 1 or a 2, they know what that means. We might, they at this level, they really do have an understanding of that, and they're tired of being the ones that don't get it all the time. And I hope to change that by the time I'm done with them.
Well, not only change their perception of themselves,
just their self-esteem level.
Right, but also their production as well. What do you enjoy the most about teaching?
Just those aha moments. When you're explaining something to a child and they haven't gotten it before, and then you find a different way and you take out another manipulative, and then they feel like, Smarty, I get that. Or when even sometimes when you're giving quiz, they're like, oh, I actually remember how to do this. Or you have that child that hardly ever speaks, have them be the one to say, I can explain this to somebody else.
Right, and I can defend my answer. It's not just I came across it, by accident. When you're working with parents, when you have parent-teacher conferences, are there little devices that you have, little ways for them to support what you're doing in the classroom that you share with parents, that you can share with parents now? Because math is one of those. You're right. Some people, adults, are math phobic,
and that's been a problem. And that's one of those things that when they come in for the meet the teacher, one of the things I try to tell parents is to please don't tell your child how bad you were in math.
Yeah, exactly.
Because then they use that. Well, my mom was bad in math, so I don't need to. And I really try to tell them I would appreciate you guys monitoring them doing their homework, but I really need them to be the ones doing their homework and them trying to explain it to you and say the steps. I also try to make sure that they have a lot of different websites and different resources that they can use.
Right, and we have those on our website as well.
Yeah, most of them are on your website. Then I put them on the Skyward and I email them to them so that they can just copy and paste the link.
Right.
Which makes it a little easier.
And I think it would be fun to learn it along with your child. If you might start remembering, algebra or some other kind of mathematics as you work with your child.
But that was my biggest thing. Don't tell your child that you were horrible in math.
Yeah, but a lot of people do, and a lot of people remember or think they were bad at math when they maybe really weren't. But they say that, and of course, then you're right. The child thinks, well, because I look like my mom, I guess I'm going to have the same deficiencies that
Exactly.
she does. Maybe what we ought to do is try to find some brilliant mathematician, you know, and see if perhaps they had a parent that was a brilliant mathematician, you know, and say, see, you know, if...
I think we each have our strengths and our weaknesses, and we need to stress what our strengths were, and not necessarily admit to our weaknesses, but let our weaknesses, you know, they can be found on their own. We don't need to be carrying a sign about our weaknesses.
Right, but I think that even our weaknesses, if we know what they are and can focus on them, I truly believe that you can improve whatever you do by looking at it and working at it. What other kind of roles maybe does Ms. Martin-Vega play at school?
Well, she's a teacher leader at our campus. She does a lot of facilitating of professional development.
I can see that. The volunteer in her.
She's a facilitator of professional learning communities on our campus. She's also a facilitator for lesson study, which we implemented last year. Also, she went to Kagan training over the summer, and she's facilitated that.
Talk about what lesson study is. You just mentioned that. I'm not sure our audience would know what that is.
Well, it's from Japan. We actually, all of us went to a training, and we came back. I took a group of teachers, and it's a process of thinking about planning a lesson, designing a lesson, and then as a group, you decide what indicators, what data you're going to collect when you go into the classroom. You're not so focused on the teacher, you're focused on the students.
Gotcha.
And then you come back and you discuss the data as well as reflect on what you learned. The whole goal of that is to transfer that knowledge to future lessons that you may design independently.
Right. And see, and I think that our audience needs to understand how scientific education and planning education has become. It's not just students open the book to page 12 and do numbers 1 through 15, you know, or odd numbers or whatever. It's scientifically looking at how do you prepare a lesson, and then how do you derive the data, and then what do you do with the data? All about student achievement.
And we're working in collaboration with our peers and our colleagues. So it's not, no longer working in isolation. So that's what lesson study, and that's what learning communities, and that's what teaching is all about now in order to be effective.
Yeah.
She's also, she facilitates, she's in charge of our math department. She volunteers to help K through 8, anything with technology, she's there. I found this new website, or you can do this.
Yeah.
She even helped us last year with Pinpoint with some, you know, on her end from the teacher side. She is just an advocate for students. She'll come and she'll voice her opinion. We'll have a discussion, and it's you can truly see that she really cares about this child, as well as she has a relationship with those students. They know she cares, and that's important, because when you walk into the classroom, like she says, she has the remedial classroom as well as from one spectrum to the next, the high achieving classroom, and they all know that she cares.
Right, and I'm sure you treat them the same. Right, and also for our audience to understand how well respected you are by your peers. You were actually nominated for 2 awards, 2 annual employee recognitions, and had to only be able to compete for 1. So that says a lot about you as well.
Well, thank you.
So it's been a real pleasure to get to know you.
It's nice meeting you.
For a brief time as we had, and always nice to see you, Ms. Dampier. And we're going to be right back with another teacher, so please stay tuned. And welcome back, and now we have with us from Treasure Coast High School, Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Caballero, who is the ROTC commander there, and also Denise Rodriguez, the principal. Thanks to the both of you for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Tell us a little bit, just briefly, about your history, and I really want to talk to our audience and help them understand maybe some misconceptions that our community may have about some of our ROTC programs, why they're there, what they do, the function of them.
Happy to.
Okay.
I started out right out of high school, enlisted in the Air Force, and went off to actually teach pilot training students how to fly instrument procedures. So I was always kind of involved in teaching and flying particularly. Then as I was doing that, I was taking some night classes. I applied for an ROTC scholarship, got accepted for the scholarship. As I was doing that, I met my lovely wife, and we got married, and off to college I went, finished up college. went off to pilot training, and then I stayed with the Air Force till 2005. So I spent 32 years with the Air Force.
Wow.
Active duty and reserve, mostly flying jobs. I did some headquarters jobs with acquisitions and so forth. And then the calling for full-time teaching and coming back to youth education and so forth kind of hit me, so I came to Treasure Coast High School, and I've been here for about 5 years now.
Since it opened, I imagine, or
No,
maybe right
shortly
after it emerged.
Shortly
Yeah,
after.
right.
The program didn't stand up until 2008, 2009 school
That's
year.
a military term, stand up.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, tell our audience a little bit about what the Air Force Junior ROTC program at Treasure Coast High School. Its mission, its function. Okay. It's not training young people to go into the military. It's leadership.
That's not exactly. Well, and it's interesting what you say, because there are some misconceptions. Our curriculum is actually pretty intense and all-encompassing. We have 3 facets to our curriculum. We have a leadership education facet, we have an aerospace science, and then we also have the fitness portion of it. And it's what they call a 40-40-20 blend. So it's 40% leadership ed, 20% physical education, and 40% aerospace science. And what we do, the mission of our unit and of the Air Force Junior ROTC program is, as we say, to build better citizens for America. And that's what we strive to do. So it's a completely encompassing, well-rounded type of program that teaches all aspects of life. We cover things like health and nutrition. We cover how to deal with stress. We cover how to communicate, both in oral presentations, written presentations, things of that nature.
Do you accept adults in this program? Yeah. Things we all should know.
Well, I tell you, we have some cadets that are pretty mature. They seem like adults sometimes.
Definitely.
But then we also have on the aerospace science side of the house, we go everything from aviation history all the way through aerodynamics. We also incorporate in that global cultural studies, because we know they're going to be going out in a global world, and they're going to have to understand different cultures and how to deal with folks from different countries and so forth. And then a big part of it also is not what we do so much in the classroom environment, but outside the classroom environment. All our community service. Exactly. So we have, over the last 3 years, have averaged over 4,500 hours of community service within the community. So it's like I said, it's a really well-rounded program. The students get an awful lot out of it, and it's neat to watch them come from a freshman all the way through to a senior and see the confidence they develop and the maturity level, and how they really pick up on some of the what we like to call core values. How to be really a good, solid human being and individual. And then if they choose to go into the military, obviously we would help them with that. But whatever course they want to take, whichever direction they want to go with, we're more than happy to encourage that and help them in that direction.
Right. Now, if a student is involved in is this considered like an academy almost? I mean, do they take their course subjects within your purview as well?
Yeah, well, we're actually an elective, but they can, if they do the 4 years, if I'm not mistaken, they can actually use it as an academy, but they can do another academy as well, which is kind of nice also. So if they like medical, but they also want to try ROTC and see what that has to offer, they can do both, which is kind of nice. So technically it's an elective, and it serves as electives for them, with the exception of the first 2 years. If they take the first 2 years, it counts as their Hope credit.
Okay. So that 40-40-20 is really just one course, an elective course. It's
correct.
Not,
correct.
Okay.
That's a blend of each course that we have. And like I said, we've got 4 leadership ed segments, if you want to call it that, for the first year, second year, third, etc. And then with the aerospace science, same thing. We've got 4, but they give us a couple of extra aerospace science courses that we can we can intermix. Some schools actually, in certain districts in certain states, actually can earn a science credit with it, but then they change the blend. They go more towards the science side, so they go 60-40, and they drop the fitness end.
Right. But the fitness end is very important.
I think so. I mean, look around, and we need to really work on that a little bit.
And the fitness and nutrition together.
Absolutely.
With all that. As a principal of the school, I know how much having this unit at your school means to the school, but also, what's been some of the feedback that you've gotten over the years from the unit's participation in not only school events, because you see them at football games and you see them at all kind of ceremonies, but for what they do for the community?
Absolutely. I think Lieutenant Cavallero hit on the in-service hours that our students have been able to work in the community. And he is truly, as long with Sergeant Simmons, his cohort member and teacher, they have developed student leaders on our campus, and it is very much, they are facilitators of education. It is student leadership that drives this program. So frequently students will come to us with ideas, possibly with, let's go to a local nursing home to be able to work with elderly people as somebody to talk to, a companion. It could be bringing an idea for a fundraiser, Relay for Life, for example. They all have projects that are driven by their interests. Lieutenant Cavallero mentioned the core values. He is one of our PBS chairs. So he takes that positive behavior support and has encompassed that not only in his classroom but at the whole school level. And being able to honor students that we recommend as doing nice deeds on our campus. So being able to make that a core value the Titan way as well.
Right. What would you say is the percentage of students, going back to the military reference, and I will tell you just I wouldn't say a little bit, and I think I know probably a lot about our ROTC programs at all of our high schools. And I don't know any parent who wouldn't want their child to have the experience that you provide to them. Not just the leadership, but also the academic piece as well. But just the goals and the atmosphere, I guess, is what I'm trying to. It's all positive. It's all about being the best you can be. Not to use an old Army phrase, but or Marine phrase, whatever it is. Yeah, but
that is very true.
What would you say is the percentage of students that actually go through your I mean, I know you can't speak for others, but they actually go either into the military or to a military academy?
Okay.
Because they have to have a congressional appointment to do that.
To the academy, correct. Right. Interestingly enough, the number that we have in ROTC kind of mirrors society. We have about 0.5%, half of a percent of the school population participates in ROTC. And that's what it is in the real world right now.
Is that right? That
Absolutely,
few?
Yes.
Well, then they just stand out because, that's...
Absolutely.
We have 130 cadets, and our campus is approximately 2,500 students.
That's all 4 grades combined?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And then what usually happens is, we have an attrition rate as we go through the years, and we'll end up with approximately, say, 20 seniors, somewhere in that range, 18 or so, 20 seniors at the graduate out of our program. And it could be first-year cadet, too. A lot of folks come in their senior year as a first-year cadet, saying, hey, I want to take a look at this. I want to see if maybe this is something I want to do when I graduate.
Right.
So of those folks, we probably have, I would say, maybe 30 to 40% that actually pursue a military career. Either join the military or something like that. So.
But just because you go to, well, no, I guess if you go to a military academy on scholarship, you do have to contribute at least 4 years, I think. Is it still 4?
Correct.
Or 5
yes, usually a year for a year. Honestly, I have to double-check it myself because it changes all the time.
But it's the discipline. It's all the other intangibles, I think, not just the experience, the physical, the leadership, all that. I think it's the intangibles that you can't, it's almost like you can't teach someone that. They have to be around it. They have to have it modeled by you and some of your senior leadership, your associate maybe.
One of the things I think that's really important about the program, and I stress it, I even have to stress it with my parents because they always want to, and I love it, they want to help, but sometimes they want to help too much. And I keep telling them, it's the cadets program. They need to do it because that's how they learn.
Right.
That's how they build that confidence. And I tell them, I say, give it a shot. If you make a mistake, I don't care. We'll fix it. But that's how you learn. If you never make a mistake and somebody's always catching you before you hit the ground, so to speak, you don't really get as far as you could. You build that confidence. You learn that you can fix things when things don't go right. And that's huge for building that confidence and teaching them how to be a problem solver. And when they do that, they know when they leave, they say, you know what, I can pretty much do anything I put my mind to. And that's really important about it. And if they do it from the proper perspective with the right core values, our Air Force core values are integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. And if they live the core values and they have that confidence and that drive and that feeling that they can get it done, it doesn't matter what they do in life, they're going to be successful. And that's the main thing. That's what we shoot for.
There's all the Hollywood version out there of what the Air Force is. The Goose and the Iceman and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't show the work that they had to do to get to where they are.
Absolutely.
And that's where it starts, is with something like you. I mean, everybody's seen Top Gun. I shouldn't say everybody. But if you haven't, go see it.
And that's Navy, by the way. But that's
I'm sorry. You're right. That is
okay.
Navy. Well, I mix Marines and Navy, too, all the time. So. But it's still the same concept. It's that Hollywood version.
Yep.
But there's so much work that goes there that can be used in other places. I kind of think that's where I'm going, is that all the values that you're teaching, let alone the academics. I mean, I know we're honoring you as Teacher of the Year.
I appreciate that.
Youth Leadership Development Person of the Year, although that's an important piece too. So let's talk about the teaching part. The teaching part as far as the aerospace. What are some of the kind of concepts that you teach to students?
We start, and I'll kind of just walk you real quickly through the first 2 years, because that's really where we get into the aerospace science, and beyond that we start getting into, like I said, global cultural studies, which is very important. That's like a sociology type class. The first year is almost exclusively aviation history. We go all the way back to ancient times with the Chinese and so forth, and talk about rockets and how they developed kites and so forth. And we go through the Wright brothers and all of modern aviation, where we came to, and into the space age as well. And then in the second year, we really get into the nuts and bolts of why airplanes fly, why things fly. We talk about propulsion systems. We talk about, Bernoulli's laws, aerodynamical forces and laws and so forth. And then we also, in that second year, give them a little flavor of it, because we teach them how to fly on a simulator. Right. So second year cadets get to learn how to fly, but not like you say we see in video games, just kind of yanking and banking. We actually teach them how to hold a heading, how to hold a airspeed, how to change airspeed, how to fly point A to point B. So they kind of get a real feeling for the work that it takes to learn how to fly an airplane. Then we get into our upperclassmen, and I say the third and fourth year. Then we start getting into global cultural studies, which I think is it's huge.
It's going to be huger, if that's a word.
Yeah, absolutely. And we look at regions, and we'll look at, for example, the Middle East, as we just finished that up this last quarter. And we'll talk about the culture, we'll talk about religions, we'll talk about the economy of the region. And then we give them what we call problem-based learning exercises. And for example, the one we just gave them, which is very pertinent to current affairs, we said, okay, you are a national security advisor to the president. And Israel decided that they can't deal with Iran continuing to develop their nuclear capabilities. And so they conducted a strike on Iran.
Okay.
So Iran decided they're going to block the Strait of Hormuz and block all oil coming out of the Strait of Hormuz to the U.S. Now, as a national security advisor to the president, give him a synopsis of your read on the situation, what actions we may have to take, what may happen after this. So they have to get into the books, they have to go into current affairs online,
they're going to have
to do a lot of research and set up basically like a white paper and say, okay, Mr. President, this is what we think is going to happen, this is what we think we need to do, this is how we think we can fix the situation. And we make them start first individually, putting some work together, and then we bring them together as a group and let them work as a committee. So they learn team building, they learn research, they learn current affairs.
So in that one lesson,
in that one lesson, they're learning all kinds of aspects of,
strategic planning.
Yep, you got it. Exactly.
Higher level thinking in terms of thinking skills.
Yep.
So, and I think this would be the mark of any person who works with young people. You've been at the school for 5 years now.
Correct.
How many students still keep in contact with you?
They come in all the time.
I bet.
I got a bunch of them coming in all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
And I email them, and I talk with them. I call them on the phone. I've got several of them that, which is really, it's so cool. It's so neat because, New Year's, Christmas Day, my phone just lights up with, hey, Colonel, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's.
Right.
And these are from current students and from former students. And we keep in touch all the time. And when they're in town, I take them out to lunch, and we'll talk about, catch up on what they're doing and so forth. So, yeah, it's really nice.
And that's very rewarding to know not only had you made an impact at the time, but continue to have an influence on their life as well.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure that when you visit his classroom, there's, I would love to be a fly on the wall when they're having this white paper discussion,
The students are always engaged. They're very attentive to the real
They don't want to miss it, I'm sure.
They don't. To the real life examples that they're interacting with.
Right.
Lieutenant Colonel Cavallero also embeds massive amounts of technology. They are always using innovative techniques in his room, and the kids appreciate that. And he allows them to work through some of those difficult scenarios, and it's fun.
Yeah.
And frequently, he has students in his room from before class until way after the bell.
Right.
And they're busy talking about it at lunch as well. And they are a dedicated group of students, and he has a dedicated group of parents that are able to help and support the work they do outside of the classroom, and all the voluntary services and the different commitments that they make. So it really is a team effort in both the student, the educators in the classroom, and the parents.
Right, and I will bet at the end of the year when those students walk across the stage and get their diploma, I'll bet you get lots of tearful thank yous from parents and students as well. And I'll bet the attendance rate in your class is pretty high.
Yeah, we have pretty good attendance rate.
Yeah, I bet you
absolutely,
do.
absolutely.
Because they wouldn't want to miss anything.
You're right. I mean, one of the most rewarding, experiences I can relay to you was we were up at we do a leadership school up at the Citadel up in South Carolina, the military college of South Carolina. And I had one of my students up there, and the parents came up to pick him up and watch the graduation ceremony with the parade and so forth. And when they opened the gates to let the parents in to take the kids home, this one dad made a beeline straight for me and gave me the biggest hug and just whispered in my ear, "Thank you so much." And I can't tell you what that means.
Yeah.
It's just you can't put words on it. You
Right.
can't. It's just such a great feeling.
Priceless.
And it also reminds you and keeps you grounded to make you realize, every time I open my mouth and say something, these kids are taking that in. Every time I do something, they're watching my every. So it keeps me grounded and makes me remember that what I do, what I say is very, very important.
Absolutely.
Because they are going to take that and they're going to run with it. So and it's a good thing to make sure that and my wife helps keep me grounded too. She reminds me that I'm just a man.
Yeah, put your pants on one leg at a time.
That's right, exactly.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to come here and talk to us today.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
The community is happy to know we have someone like you around our young people. And always nice to see you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to be right back with another Teacher So. Please stay tuned.
It's time to join forces. Get energized and fuel up right. Because starting today, every kid in America has a mission. Bring out the action hero in you. Be part of the greatest action movie ever. The first movie that puts you in the action. Show us how you train and eat like an action hero. Join in at actionheroalliance.com.
And welcome back. And now we have with us from Village Green Environmental Studies School, Laura Ellis, who's a teacher there. She's been with us for a while, and we're going to find out a little bit about her history and also her principal, Aretha Burnett. I mean, this is your first year.
First year.
Right. You were in AP last year at Manatee.
Yes.
And had an opportunity to go be the academic leader at Village Green Environmental Studies School. So thanks to the both of you for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
You betcha. Now, Miss Ellis, tell us a little bit about you and maybe why you got into teaching, but first, where you went to school. Are you from here, or did you come here from somewhere else?
Well, I do have a long history, but I did start out in southern Illinois, and that's where I was born and grew up, and I did most of my college years in Southern Illinois University. And after my first year of teaching in Southern Illinois, I went out to Wyoming to teach, which was very interesting and so much different than...
I bet. Where in Wyoming?
Well, it was right smack dab in the middle.
Yeah.
And it's a small town. It may not even be there anymore. It's called Jeffrey City.
Okay.
In Wyoming. And
is that close to Jackson Hole?
Not really.
Yeah, 'cause that's up north, I want to say, up in the mountains.
It is a little further, but we live just a little bit north of the Continental Divide.
Right, exactly.
And a beautiful country, but my husband, who was in the newspaper business at the time, ran the Jeffrey City News, and I was an art teacher at the time. And they also had me help out in the afternoon in kindergarten classes.
Oh, okay.
So they spread me out.
Right. When you say had you help out, what does that mean? As kind of like a classroom aide?
I was an aide, not a volunteer, but I was a teacher's aide.
Right.
And I got a really good taste of how a kindergarten was ran.
Right.
So that gave me a little bit of a background because now I'm a kindergarten teacher, and I've been a kindergarten teacher for a while.
Okay. When you say a while, how many years have you, without
counting on my fingers and my toes, and
So
other
more than
people's
20.
fingers and toes.
Yeah.
I guess about 26 years as a
Okay.
kindergarten teacher. I was also a first grade teacher.
Okay.
And then, as I said, I was an art teacher for two years.
Right. Well, in more than a quarter of a century or thereabouts teaching, you know, especially at the kindergarten level, there is so much that's expected of kindergartners now that, you know, I imagine that
Definitely.
you have seen quite a bit of change. What would you say is the biggest change that now is the expectation academically and socially of children that are 5 years old?
Very much. It's great that they have the VPK program because that prepares the kindergarten students for some of the things that they were just learning to do about 20 years ago.
Right.
And
Reading,
now reading,
identifying colors, shapes, all those things.
Oh, we really don't focus that much on colors.
No, it's already done.
We do work on shapes, but we go in depth. Like our Common Core standards need to go in depth.
Right.
Down deep. So we did just get done working on our shapes, geometry.
Right.
Back in the old days, it wasn't called geometry. It was just knowing our shapes.
Right.
Now we have to know about vertices.
As a kindergartner.
That's correct.
Wow, that's incredible. And also, how to use a word in a sentence, whether it's a verb or a noun.
Yes, we do have to recognize nouns. We have to recognize verbs. We have to put a simple sentence together, and hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be making a lot more complex sentences. Actually, here lately, we have been doing opinion writing pieces where we use the word because. Because is
So defending your position.
Right, because is in our high frequency word list. So the children have to state why they might like a particular story or why they just think that something is their favorite.
But that's really interesting because if you think about it, that's really, in a way, higher level thinking because they're having to compare and contrast, then they're having to defend why they chose one or the other. And you don't typically think of a 5-year-old being able to do that. You think of a 5-year-old asking you the why, not coming up with the answer to the why. Would you say that you see that when you go into Miss Ellis's classroom?
Absolutely. When I go into her classroom, it's a very hands-on environment. She uses a lot of props in her class, and I would say the experience, the past experience in art has allowed her to draw on that creativity.
No pun intended on the draw.
Yes. On that, to pull that and build schema for students. For instance, she has them writing at a very early age. They start out with pre-writing skills by drawing pictures, and then she will push them to add details. So they understand the concept of adding details when she moves into the writing piece, when they actually start to write about what's in their pictures. So if she says add details, they own that concept because she's built that schema for them.
Interesting. So you would have them draw something and then say, this is my house. My house is yellow, or my house is big, or that kind of thing?
Well, we had a great program called Right from the Beginning.
Yes.
And it focused on starting out with the drawing. And then from the drawing, then they write their statement. And then they can add on those details. Big, small, little synonyms. We also have so many things besides the word wall, like a lot of other, all the other classes do have in elementary school. We have our color words, we have our shape words up there. I tell the children, just look around the room and you will know how to spell these things, and then you can add them in the sentence.
Well, you know, and that's something that parents can also do, those parents who might be watching, or grandparents, or caregivers, or whatever, that they can help support that activity at home, because children can do that all the time. Parents can replicate that while they're fixing dinner, or while they're in the car. They can say, draw me a picture, and then tell me about what's in the picture and add that detail.
Exactly. What we have really been working on, especially this year, was to let the children have ownership in what they're learning, and to have the adult ask the questions and the children explain, and have the children talk it over and tell what they know, is really the big push for them to learn more and more.
Sure, absolutely. Now, with your theme being environmental studies, well, not even if it weren't that theme, but what other kind of roles does Miss Ellis play? I know you have a lot of activities that you do at your school. You have your nature walk. I imagine you take your students to the nature walk, but, you know, is she perhaps maybe a mentor to other teachers or students, or what other...
She definitely does mentor one of our newer teachers this year, and she's also the yearbook sponsor, so she's all over the place. Again. She's collecting photos and memorabilia for our school to put in our school handbook, as well as our yearbook.
Right. Well, and you being a new principal, and not only a new principal, but a first year at that school principal, you have to identify those staff members who on whom you can rely.
Yes.
Then it sounds like Miss Ellis is one of those.
Yes, and she's also been like the historian for us, because she's been at Village Green for such a long time.
Right.
I won't tell you, but she might want to share that with you.
Right, right. So you've been through the iteration from the magnet school of having the after-school program when it was originally, to now it being a magnet school for the environmental studies.
Right. Besides the transformation from kindergarten being play and social activities to academics, I've also seen Village Green evolve from an elementary school to an environmental studies school.
Right.
And our kindergarten grade group emphasizes the environment and the habitats.
Yes, yes.
And here lately we've been doing terrariums. We've really been studying terrariums. We have a great partnership with the Savannahs.
Yes.
That's just the nature preserve that's down the road.
Right.
We've had several field studies. And
we've had bush wildlife too. Haven't you had bush wildlife at your school?
The older grades will have the bush wildlife.
Okay. Maybe younger.
They're saving that for the older grades, so that'll be an exciting activity for them to do. But we've studied the terrariums. Well, we have been putting together terrariums. We have discussed habitats, and we also went to the Savannahs just last week. We talked and studied the marsh that's out there at the Savannahs, and it's just great having that just around our corner as a resource. And then here we are in environmental studies school too, and it's just, we're just so grateful to have them as a partner.
Well, you know, when you talk about marsh, now marsh is not something typically you can, especially a kindergartner who's that little, they're going to see and they maybe even know what a marsh is. Now they've seen the river, they've seen the ocean. They might not know what a marsh is.
They may not see the polar region either.
Yeah, well, that's true too. But to have that,
but the marsh.
But the marsh is all around us. You just can't see it as readily. So to have that place where you can go study it, to say it might look like land out there, but there's water underneath.
And also, they may be looking and they don't know what they're looking at.
Exactly.
We had one little book where we did a little preparation ahead of time, and we discussed what the swamp was as opposed to what a marsh is.
Right.
And so, to everybody out there, a marsh does not have trees. Now the trees will be on the edge, but they won't be in the actual marsh area.
Yeah, well, that's it. My daughter lives in Louisiana, and that is definitely
their swampland. My father-in-law was from Louisiana, and we've been there many times.
So besides the academic piece, I know that kindergarten is all about learning social skills. It's learning how to be a part of a group. It's how to take instruction, how to raise your hand, how to walk in a line. You know, so what kind of skills, in addition to the academics, do you want to make sure that children have when they leave your classroom?
Oh, wow. Then it's ongoing. Those things are always ongoing, following directions, being able to follow the rules, being a great world changer. Those things are constantly ongoing.
They think they're going to be a world changer. They know they're going to be a world.
I hope that they are, because we say it every day.
Good.
We are world changers. We're always respectful, engaged world changers.
And so there's learning to follow the rules.
Exactly.
To become socialized, basically,
Well,
in terms of a school environment, because you have to be organized.
We still have to have them do that. In kindergarten, we have to try to be so structured, but we also have to consider that there may be some children that were still out there that didn't get a chance to be exposed to a VPK program or to be socially engaged with other children or how to act appropriately among other children or with other adults besides their parents or family members.
Right. And that puts the onus on you as the kindergarten teacher to have those children who come in. Some may have had the experience of VBK, or they may have had a rich learning environment at home that have had adults working with it, and some maybe not. So you've got to have all of them together, bring them along, and have them hopefully about at the same level at the end. And you know what? They can do it, can't they?
Oh, they sure can. It may not be in 1 year, but it will happen.
It will happen.
And what we always say when we are, let's see, all children are capable of success.
Right, absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure getting to know you.
Well, it was nice getting to know you better. I've always seen you around in the county office.
Right.
It's nice to have this little chat with you.
Absolutely. And then when we came and you dedicated, I guess it was 2 years ago, dedicated the walk area. It was just so
I was there.
I know you were. I remember seeing you, and I remember your
Taking
kindergartners
photos.
were right there in the front. So again, nice to chat with you. Always good to see you, Miss Burnett.
It was a pleasure.
And
Thank
we're going
you.
to be thank you. We're going to be right back with another teacher, so please stay tuned.
$7,000 high school students drop out every school day. That's a line of desks more than 4 miles long. We can keep students in school. Visit boostup.org and take the first step.
And welcome back. And now from Weatherby Elementary, we have Melanie McPherson, who is a 3rd grade teacher, and Principal Michael Hitzman. Thanks to both of you for being here.
Always my pleasure.
Always fun.
Hi, thanks for
having me.
Thank you, and congratulations for representing such a great staff at Weatherby. We were talking, we always love to go to Weatherby because it's such a family environment, and it's so everyone is just smiles and knows what they're doing. So just like you.
Thank you. Yes, and it is.
So tell us a little bit about you. Are you from here? Did you come here from somewhere?
I am from Fort Pierce.
Oh,
born and raised. Not
good
very
for you.
many of us. Yes.
Well, actually, there's been a lot of our Teachers of the Year. I'm surprised how many are from here.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That is good. That's really good.
I call Fort Pierce the magnetism. We leave, but we always come back.
I'm the same way.
We
Grew up in
do.
Vero Beach. Mm-hmm.
And my mother was a teacher.
Oh, okay.
And in the county, and she taught at Fort Pierce Elementary.
Okay.
Or not Fort Pierce Elementary, Fort Pierce Central, sorry.
Okay.
Dan McCarty.
Okay.
And Port St. Lucie High.
Okay.
For 40 years.
For 40 years?
Yes.
Okay. What was her name?
Gwen Clark.
Okay, so people might know her
Yes.
and remember her. So it's been in your blood, or is it something that you came to later in life?
No, I went to school. I always knew I was going to be a teacher.
Right.
I went home from school and played school.
Lined your teddy bears up, or your younger sister and brother, or
exactly.
whatever.
My friends, whoever was there.
Whoever was available, huh?
Yes.
Okay. So do you think it was because of your mother's influence, or was it just something that you enjoyed and you were good at school? So
I think it's something you're born with. 20 years later, I still love it. I love walking into the classroom. I love my students. Every year I always say, this is the best class ever. And this year my colleagues were saying, you say that every year.
But it's true.
I do, because I do love it.
Yeah. Have you always taught 3rd grade?
I've taught 4th grade. I've actually taught language arts, where I was just teaching reading and writing at one point.
Was this at a middle school? Or?
It was at Weatherby.
At Weatherby.
I actually started my career at Fort Pierce Elementary.
Okay.
And we opened Weatherby.
Oh,
we left,
wow.
When they were doing the renovations.
Right.
We went to Weatherby, opened it. It was really an exciting time.
I'll bet.
We got little things just like picking the mascot.
Yeah.
And I'm an avid fisherman, so when...
that's where the Mariners came from, huh? Ryman, the ancient Mariner, maybe, perhaps.
And just growing up in Fort Pierce with our beautiful waterways.
Absolutely.
And speaking of waterways, coming back into our community and teaching and making sure that I'm teaching children that I know will stay in our community,
right,
and keep Fort Pierce the beautiful place it is. It's very important to me.
Yeah, well, that's good that you have, you feel like your community made an impression on you and gave benefits to you, so you want to make sure it's there for other people as well. And maybe they'll be river keepers, or at least they'll have that kind of in their mind that they'll take care of the environment. So with third grade, it's a pivotal grade. I mean, everybody knows that, and it's something that I think you have to be, to use your words, is you have to be born to be able to take that kind of, I don't want to say pressure, but I mean, it's the first time that children know that they're going to be expected to perform on a standardized test. How do you deal with that stress with the children?
Well, that's a great question.
Well, I'm sure you prepare them for one thing.
And it is a stressful time, and it's stressful for Mr. Hitzman and his boss, Mr. Lannon, and it's stressful for us, and that's our job as educators, is to try to make sure that the children are walking into the classroom and stress-free.
Right.
It's their safe place, and I tell them, it's my safe place, it's your safe place. We're here to learn, and at the same time, we're going to build a sense of community and lean on each other, just like I lean on my colleagues. And I try to make sure they know that no matter what they feel, they are successful. They're successful just trying their best, no matter where they are. And I always do see progress. It may not be what we all are.
Right. It may not be something on a piece of paper.
We all want to be a 5.
Sure.
And
we're all not going to be a 5.
No. But letting them know that just trying their best, leaning on their parents, leaning on teachers, administration, and we all work together. That's what makes a big difference and helps them relax. They know they have a lot of people to lean on at school, and that's one good thing about Weatherby.
Yeah, it is that way about Weatherby, and I think that it's also creating that safe haven where even if they make a mistake, they know that that's the only way they're going to learn. You can't, learn. You're never going to get everything right all the time. So just try again. And it sounds to me like that you have that heart for the children, and you have that sense of commitment to your community. That means, these children are going to be the ones that take care of us as we age and live the rest of our life.
Absolutely.
Can you tell me, Mr. Hitzman, when you visit Ms. McPherson's classroom, tell me what you see and especially what you feel.
Well, first I'm going to kind of touch bases on her coming back to St. Lucie County, because it kind of ages me as well. Because actually, I taught at Fort Pierce Central when she was there. So when the opportunity came back to hire her in at Weatherby, I was excited because I did know her mother very well, and I know the background that Melanie comes from. So I was excited to have her back, and of course, excited to have her in the classroom as well. I think one of the things that I noticed, not only in the classroom but just throughout the campus, is that we have a Kids of Hope philosophy at the school. And with that Kids of Hope philosophy, Melanie really embraces that because, and giving an example, we had a student that was struggling in another classroom, and this particular child just wasn't being successful. I didn't ask. She offered, she says, hey, there's a student I noticed is struggling on our team. She says, can I take this child on myself? And this isn't the first time she's, when we've had situations, and sometimes kids aren't successful in certain situations, but Melanie always takes that opportunity to say, hey, let me help. And she does a fantastic job. A student that might be having a difficult time all of a sudden just blossoms in her classroom. You may see this child is having really difficult issues, and all of a sudden here's this child that's a model student, and they really strive to please and do the right things in the school for her. And it's because of how she embraces the children and makes them feel each one of them special and important in the classroom. And I think that goes a long way into children being successful in school, is how they feel about themselves. And Melanie just does a phenomenal job with that, along many other things as well that she, in the classroom.
Well, that's high praise, because, to recognize. Now, does that mean that you would take that child into your classroom, or you would spend time after school mentoring the child and working with them?
I actually, this year, I did take a child at the beginning of the year and had her come in, and she's doing phenomenal. And I'm not only doing it just for the child. I also was trying to help a new teacher that...
Well, sometimes you just don't click with that teacher, and third grade is so critical. You want to make sure that you're...
It's such a learning experience. As a mentor this year, I'm trying to help a new teacher, and I'm still learning. And I just want the new teachers to know that we're all in this, it's a learning process for all of us.
Sure.
Especially with technology and how everything is changing.
Oh, right.
We are all still just really working hard. Teachers are evolving constantly. It's one of the things I love about the job.
Yeah, that's true. It's a dynamic experience. I mean, you're not making widgets, and every day is a new day, and every child's a different child, and every year is a different year. I mean, so there's nothing that's ever the same. So, would you ever want to teach a different grade? Forget Mr. Hisman's here, but because obviously it's important that you're at third grade.
That's funny you say that, because at the end of every year we get the little slip of paper that
Right.
says, what are your intentions for next year?
Right, right.
And every year I say, you know, I really do enjoy the challenge. The children, the age group they're just still
They're
such
what,
babies.
eight
They're
going on 9? Is
8,
that-
9 years
8,
old.
9 years old.
I love the age group.
Right.
But
they're old enough that they understand what school
Yes.
means, and they're not babies, but they understand that there's a process and there's a structure, and they get it, and they can work together in teams and things like that.
Oh, yes.
They're old enough,
They love the
but they're still
cooperative
young,
learning,
yeah.
which is so
Oh, I
important.
bet.
And at that age group, they still think the teacher's a superstar, and
Of
it's such a
course.
wonderful feeling to walk through the door, and I feel like I'm walking on the red carpet every day, just because the children make me feel that way.
Yeah, but it's because
It's
you make
amazing.
them feel that way. It's a two-way thing. It's like Alice in the Looking Glass. It's both on the same sides of the equation. I have a feeling that she also plays roles other than being a mentor to new teachers at your school, whether it's in a professional learning communities or grade chair or team leader or something like that.
Absolutely. No, she is a mentor to our new teachers, obviously, and that's one of the most critical things
Absolutely
we can do
it
at
is.
campus, because we want all of our teachers to be successful, and so she stepped up and does that. And again, like I said, from either taking the child into her own classroom
Right.
to help out,
That's a big deal.
big deal, or to just be there anytime that they need them. And I know that means 24/7 by phone call or
Yeah.
by being there in person all the time. And of course, she's done so many other things as well. Helping out with our programs that we have at school, Kids at Hope program, dances, all the different activities we have. I can always count on Ms. McPherson, whether it's something
Right.
as simple as being behind the cafeteria line as we're serving those lunches at dinner time for our parent at nights, or being there at one of the dances chaperoning, or helping with an FCAT workshop. So I know we can always count on her to help out, in not only in the classroom environment, but all over the campus. And
Right.
that's important, as a family unit.
Right. And we've mentioned Kids at Hope a couple times, and I don't know if our audience really understands what that means. So in a nutshell, in just a minute or so, can you describe of what the philosophy of Kids at Hope is, and how that impacts you as a classroom teacher with the children directly, and perhaps even with their parents?
It's very simple. It's every child is capable of success. There are no exceptions.
And we
There are
start
no
our school board
exceptions.
meeting with the Kids at Hope pledge.
And it's an incredible philosophy, because like I said, when I walk in and I feel like I'm walking across the red carpet, and I want to be successful, and it starts with making sure the children know that they can be successful. They're amazing, every single one of them. I want them to walk in feeling that I can do anything in the world. Every day I'm looking at future teachers, future doctors, future lawyers, future parents, our future. And because I was born and raised in this community, I look at those children and I know that they'll be a part of my lives as long as they're here and I'm here. And it's so important to me.
Well, and the fact that a big part of the whole Kids at Hope philosophy is that we as adults are all treasure hunters with each child, because each child within them has a treasure. Yeah, everyone
Exactly.
does, even adults do. And I'm sure there's adults that have never found their treasure because nobody really looked for it. So I try to kind of use that philosophy when I'm talking to all kinds of people, whether they're children, adults, whatever. But if each one of your children feels like you're searching for what's special about them, and there is something, then they're going to perform tricks for you. They'll do anything you want them to do to be successful.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and it takes a lot to imbue them with that. Besides having that confidence, what skills do you really want to make sure that they have by the time they leave your classroom?
I want to make sure that they have a love for reading, and that they just don't feel that reading is taking a test.
Right.
That they want to every day for the rest of their lives pick up some wonderful literature and be able to enjoy it, understand it, and pass that on to their own children.
Mm-hmm. That's really great. I like that, the love of reading, because whether it's a fiction novel, whether it's a newspaper, magazine, online, whatever it is, that thirst for knowledge, I think is what I'm hearing you talk about. So, well, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
It's been a real pleasure. And I mean, this community to produce jewels like this, you know, and to stay around and bless the rest of us. So appreciate you being with us.
Thank you very much.
As always. And congratulations of representing Weatherby. And my friend Michael Hitzman, always good to see you.
Always my pleasure as well.
Okay.
And thank you for having us.
Thank you. We're going to be right back with another teacher, so please stay tuned.
Say with me, imagine what you'd see if every child had a book to read. 'Cause every kid across the nation deserves a book to read, and we can make it happen right now. No, I don't know what you've been told, but kids with books learn so much more. So the mission is for us to get a book to each and every child. So let's join hands, book people unite, unearth hidden passion. To motivate some magic, to change the writing on the wall, writing on the wall, and make a difference. One book can inspire a child. One book can be the first thing that helps to change a life.
Read to a child today and spark a lifetime of ambition.
And welcome back. And now we have with us from White City Elementary, Tara Sekerchak, who is a kindergarten teacher, and we're going to talk to her about what is her classroom like with organized chaos of 18 5-year-olds. And Jackie Lynch, her principal, who's had very glowing things to say about her teacher. So thanks to both of you for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it. So Tara, tell us a little bit about you, maybe where you grew up and where you went to school.
I grew up in Pittsburgh, in Pennsylvania, and I went to a small school there. And then about 5 years ago, I decided to move down to here to teach.
Okay. And did you always want to be a teacher, you think? Or were you one of those little girls who lined up her toys and you were?
Yep, that was me.
That was you?
Yeah, since I can't even remember how young, so young, I would always, in my room, I'd have like a little classroom, and I would like have my books, and I would pretend to teach anybody, my brother, stuffed animals.
Whoever you could grab, right? Whoever's available.
Anyone.
Yeah.
So then as I went through school, too, I always bonded with my teachers, and some of them I'm still friends with to this day,
that's great.
so that really like sealed the deal that was what I needed to be doing.
Have you ever, now how long have you been teaching?
I've been here, this is my fifth year here, and then I had 2 years in pre-K before that.
Oh, okay. Do you still communicate by any chance with your previous teachers? I mean, do you ask them questions or anything like that, or did you do it maybe before you actually got in the classroom?
The people I student taught with, I still talk to them frequently. And then other high school teachers, when I was in college, I talked to them a lot. They helped me with projects and ideas.
Yeah. Did they know that you wanted to be a teacher?
Oh, yeah. They definitely pushed me in that direction.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. But you're at kindergarten. You're the other end of the spectrum. Did you choose to teach kindergarten, or is it something that chose you? I guess there was an availability.
Well, it was what I wanted. When I was in college, I knew I wanted to do early childhood. I even had, I have a certificate in that, so I focused on that when I was in college. And I did the pre-K for 2 years, and I liked it, but I wanted to go to kindergarten. So when I actually went to a job fair, and that's how I found this job.
Oh, great.
That was the first question that Mrs. Lynch asked me, what grade could you teach if you could teach any grade? And I was like, kindergarten.
And she went, yippee!
Yeah, she said she had an opening, so it was just meant to be, I think.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, you have the very similar personality, very bubbly, very outgoing, so I'm sure you identify with Mrs. Lynch as well.
Oh, yeah.
So tell me, what's your classroom like? And I'll ask Miss Lynch what she sees when she goes in your classroom. But how would you describe your classroom?
I think it's very organized and very bright, and I try to make it very engaging. I try to have things everywhere, visuals everywhere, lots of colors, lots of fun things, and it's always very organized. I even teach my students that we try to be very organized.
Well, that's one of the things that they have to learn, yeah. Well, because you get children who could have had a pre-K experience or maybe not. So the ones that maybe not, do they kind of follow their peers around, or do you have to remind them, we need to stay in line? You know, all those little little devices that you have to help them?
Definitely both. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they follow the leaders in the class, but I also have to remind them. But I mean, I keep a very, like, the schedule is very consistent. So with, I mean, probably after the first week, they all kind of knew exactly what was expected and it fell into place.
Do you have like bells that will go off, or a little snap your fingers, or little mnemonic devices like that?
Yeah, I use a bell to let them know like when it's time to transition sometimes, and they know exactly when the bell rings. I need to stop what I'm doing, clean up. It's time to do something different.
Do they go like in centers around the classroom, like 4 or 5 centers, or?
Yeah, I have 6 centers.
6 centers, okay.
So we do 6 centers, and they know exactly what to be doing at each center every day.
Okay. What are the different centers?
I have a reading center where they can read books with each other.
Okay.
There's a phonemic awareness center where they can practice like tapping out words or
do they do
beginning
it
sounds.
by themselves or with a partner?
They work together as a group. They
Okay.
help each other.
Oh, I gotcha.
I usually have the groups arranged where there's a student in each group who can help the other ones.
Oh, that makes sense.
So it helps them to practice.
Absolutely.
And I also have a writing center and a listening center. There's the computers and a wordplay center where they can practice sight words, things like that.
A computer center for a 5-year-old. Okay, so what would they do at the computer?
They play different games. A lot of the ones I have them on now, there's a book that they listen to, and then they echo read it. The computer will read it, and then they read it, and then they play a game to go along with it.
But they know what they're supposed. They go put on the headphones and turn it on, and
yeah.
Wow, that's just incredible that those little children can do that. I mean, I guess they're capable of more than we think they are.
Oh yeah, they pick up quickly on things like that.
Yeah. Well, Miss Lynch, tell me when you visit Tara's classroom. Tell me, and I imagine you got a big smile on your face that you just love going in her classroom.
When I walk in Miss Sekretek's room, what I see actually is all the planning that has gone on before the day has begun. I totally support what she's saying with being extremely well organized, well prepared. Materials are already set out, ready to be used to execute whatever lesson she has ready to present. Her students are always orderly, they are kind. The expectations...
Now, these are 5-year-olds, remember?
Yes. The expectations have been clearly and articulately stated from day one. She expects the students to behave as she does in the classroom. Her voice is not any different than what you hear right now. It's very soft-spoken.
But very solid.
Very solid, very focused. She doesn't waver. If this, as a 5-year-old, wants to share something that happened yesterday and she's ready to talk about reading, she doesn't ever dismiss the child. She'll entertain, acknowledge, move on. She doesn't stray from the expectation or from what her focus is for the expected learning of that day. She will meet that learning goal. One of the most exciting things I would say that is shown through her planning is the variety of tools used in the classroom. She transitions in a very tight fashion, generally not more than 15 seconds does she move from table to floor, floor to table.
With 18 5-year-olds.
They move.
Yeah.
They put their things away. When it's time to move, they're up and they walk from point A to point B and they sit. And they sit respectfully. She appreciates their behavior. She recognizes their kindness and compassion, but she also expresses it herself to them. Having children myself and having a variety of experiences as a young child, it was always important to me when I walk in a teacher's room that they feel safe. So besides the evidence of planning, you do feel a sense of calmness. It's quiet. The children speak in an inside voice. And compassionate, and it's a safe environment where children will move to levels that are unusually demonstrated way beyond a typical kindergarten classroom. They were writing and reading actually quite a while ago, and she celebrates and then she pushes them to the next level. I don't know that she celebrates herself enough because we're so proud, and I think that's generally what you see in an exemplary teacher is they give the credit to the coaches and everyone else, but truly she's a powerful and masterful teacher, and it's stemming from the exemplary planning that goes in ahead of time, followed by the reflection.
You know, those two words, powerful and masterful. Someone listening to you and watching you just sitting here might not use those terms because you are you're soft-spoken and you're petite and you're not overpowering. But what I'm hearing Mrs. Lynch describe is the effect that you have on your children. The children in your classroom is powerful and masterful because of the effects that anyone would see with the children as they're learning. One thing that she said really struck me, and I wanted to ask you about that, is that she said that, and here again, 5-year-olds having grandchildren, they want your attention all the time. They always have something to tell you. What really struck me and impressed me was what Mrs. Lynch said, that you entertain them, acknowledge them, and move on. So that means to me that you're recognizing they need your attention, but maybe only for a second, but just not to say, I'm doing something else, or I'm busy right now. That turns that child off from their inquisitive mind. Is that kind of why you do things that way? You don't want to turn that child off from their inquisitiveness and their connection to you?
Yeah, I want them to know that I value any experiences they have or anything they want to share, but that there is something that we're working on every day. So I want to let them know we have a focus. And a lot of times I'll just tell them when we're, if at the end of the day or maybe when we're at the playground, if you want to share a story, please come up to me then and share. And a lot of them they'll sit with me and talk to me about their day or whatever experiences they wanted to share. Or sometimes they'll even write me a note or something at home and bring it in just to let me know whatever it was they wanted to share. So they do know that I do value whatever their opinions and their ideas.
Right, and them and their feelings as well. But then they also know we're here to learn, and we can talk about that later. Because you see so many times, whether it's a parent in the grocery store or whatever, I can't talk to you right now. I'm too busy, and that just it breaks my heart because that little child is being dismissed, and they don't want to be dismissed. So
no, they do not.
They do not.
They like to be able to tell you whatever it is they want to tell you.
Well, and they may have something that happened the night before. They could have, or they may want to say, they've been at a center and you haven't been necessarily right there with them. You've been at another center. I just figured out how to do this, that, and the other. And that's what you want them to do, right?
Oh yeah, even at centers, even when they're working, sometimes I'm with a group or a student and I don't have a chance to talk to them at that moment. But when centers are over, as we're transitioning to the next activity, I always go to the center and I make sure I look at whatever it was they did, their writing or their activity, and I acknowledge each one of them for the work that they did, so they know that I'm paying attention.
Right, that's
great.
And
I want them to feel good because that's hard for them to sit in a center and independently do whatever activity it is. So,
but they're owning what they're doing. That's what's so great for them to come and want to tell you about what they did. They're like, hey, I did that.
Yeah, they have such pride in their work. So I want them to know I see how hard they work every day.
Right, right. Now, when you have your parent-teacher conferences, are there things that little, I don't know, I want to say tricks of the trade, but that because parents are so important, particularly at that young age, to have that repetition, to support what you're doing, do you share some of those kind of things that you do with parents to say, when you have time, whether it's in the car, so you don't have to set aside time, but maybe when you're cooking dinner to ask them to help you with tasks or something like that, so they get used to, whatever task it is they're doing. Do you kind of share that with parents?
Yeah, every week we send a newsletter as a grade, and on there, like on the back, I'm in charge of the newsletter this year, so on the back.
Then you get to control the message, that's a good thing.
So on the back of it, I always, if there's an activity or a skill we're working on, I will come up with a game or whatever activity, and I'll type it up so that they can do it with their child at home. And on the front, I have like a reading tip they can do every week. Just something that they could be driving in the car to look for words or sight words or letters. And
environmental print. That's something I heard a long time ago. Everybody knows that M,
And if we do sight words, for example, I'll do an assessment, and then I'll make a copy and send it home, and I'll send home the list of sight words and maybe highlight the ones to practice. And I always make sure if I send something like that home to send home instructions so they know what to do. So they're not just looking at a paper. I'll give game ideas of things we do.
Right.
So I try to give them ideas to do when they're at home.
Well, kindergarten has changed so much, the expectation and all that. Give us an example of, because our audience may be thinking of sight words that they might think it might be, what a kindergartner would know. What are some of the sight words that you're working on now that kindergartners are expected to know and see and recognize and know what it means?
The words we just did were like do. I mean, that's an easier one. Look, they. We'll even get to because, there.
Because for a kindergartner.
Yeah.
Do you use that so they have to explain why they made a choice or why they feel the way they do?
We actually do it in writing. We'll write like an opinion piece. So if they say my favorite food is pizza, they need the word because to state why. So it really does help them. It even helps with their writing. And in reading, we ended up teaching, last year we taught 175 sight words to them.
Wow.
And the majority of my class knew probably, I would say, 120 to 175. So their reading, their fluency is up, their reading is incredible.
I'll bet that you can look as the principal, look at the outcome of the assessments and things like that and know where your star teachers are. And this is one of them.
At this time of year, you can tell in the expectation, letter formation is correct. Conventions are very strong in the classroom, if not completely correct. The way she's able to correct a student is understanding and appreciating their effort, however, making sure that they understand the correctness and the expectation of correctness in the classroom.
But they can try again.
Absolutely.
Well, it's been a real pleasure to get to know you. Like I said, I was able to talk to the principal a little bit before you came, and everything she said about you is totally accurate. And it's been a real pleasure to get to know
Thank
you.
you.
Right. And always good to see you, Jackie.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And we're going to be right back with another teacher, so please stay tuned.
Yes, ready, ready. Go get it.
Oh, come on, Randy. Animal shelter, here I come. And no, I'm not crazy or emotionally damaged. That's a stereotype. I just belong to a total loser. I'm a good dog. So if you want a pet, adopt. And if you see Randy, tell him he dropped his wallet.
And welcome back. And now we have with us from Floresta Elementary, Stephanie Castro. She is a first grade teacher. And her principal, Deborah Eisman's here with her, so thank you to both of you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about Stephanie Castro, maybe where you're from and how you got to St. Lucie County.
I actually grew up here.
Oh, okay.
In St. Lucie County. I went to Morningside Elementary and then Northport for middle school and Port St. Lucie High.
Okay.
So I grew up right here in Port St. Lucie.
You're a homegrown girl.
Yeah.
So where did you go to school?
I went to college in the University of Miami.
Okay.
And then came back here to teach.
Did you major in elementary education or?
Elementary education and history.
And history. Okay. How were you using history with first grade, or do you talk about the history of Florida or things like that?
In first grade, there's not a lot of time for social studies,
right,
but we try to. I try to integrate with nonfiction books during reading block and stuff like that.
Exactly. Tell us about your classroom. I mean, what are first graders like now? I mean, they're not the same as we remember maybe even 5 years ago because of technology and because of new curriculum requirements and things like that.
I think the most important thing with them is just establishing the routines to start off with. And so they really, once they get their routines, they really get into their reading, reading independently to try to build their fluency. And we're working on writing personal narratives, and math.
Well, and I imagine that with the wide variety of skill levels with which they come to you, they could have had a pre-K experience, maybe not. They could have had a very rich home environment, and by rich I don't mean wealth, I mean rich in terms of words and reading and resources and time, or not. So how do you kind of develop different approaches with 22 different children that you're trying to get kind of to the same level?
Well, we have to spend time at the beginning going over their interests, learning a little bit about their background, and then spend time every day differentiating in reading and writing and math.
When you say spend time with them, do you actually sit down one-on-one with them and talk to them and talk about?
Probably more in a small group, and giving them time to to share things with the class, to talk to their neighbors and talk to the class about things about themselves.
Right.
Getting to know you kind of activities.
Right. And when they write narratives about themselves, they're what, 5 years old? 5, almost 6 maybe. How much about themselves do they know to write about?
A lot of times, we have to give a lot of prompting and a lot of support. But they love to talk about themselves. So usually, if you can get them talking about themselves, then you can help them to build a plan for their writing so that they can write
almost do a thinking map for a first grader.
Yeah, they do. They make a flow map and then and put that into writing.
Right. And I would imagine that during that time, it's a lot of the banter you hear amongst them as a group that you learn about them and you learn how they are and what they do. And they probably come in first thing in the morning and say, guess what happened to me yesterday?
Absolutely.
And they'll tell you and their friends all about what happened, especially if something with a sibling.
They love their friends and their siblings. They love to share that kind of thing.
Did you always want to be an elementary school teacher? I mean, you said you majored in education and history, so...
Yes, I wanted to teach elementary school at the University of Miami. Every elementary education major had a double major, so that's why I chose history. But I always wanted to be a teacher. I actually did a shadow day in high school at an elementary school, and that's when I knew that was going to be the career path for me.
Well, that's interesting. And so, did you go to Morningside by any chance, your old home stomping
Yes, that's
grounds?
where I went. Yes, my sister was in first grade, and I went to shadow with her teacher for the day.
Okay.
And after that, I said, "That's it. That's what I'm doing."
That's really great. When you were little, did you know that that's what you wanted to do?
I think so, but we always played school and things like that.
Yeah.
But in high school is when I decided for sure.
That's great. Well, Miss Eisman, being a longtime elementary school teacher and principal, and with your knowledge of professional development and what it takes to be a good teacher, what do you see when you go into Miss Castro's classroom?
It's just a magical place. The kids are so engaged. When she talked about establishing routines, that's probably what I would say. Everything is very organized. Kids know what to expect. There's no surprises. There are real routines established, and so they know when it's time to talk to their partner. They know when it's time to be reading. They follow the rules, and they know that their teacher really cares about them, and that's obvious. And kids who might have struggled with some behavior management type of issues, I just don't see that. They just know how much they're loved, and they thrive in that atmosphere. And I think structure, everybody looks for structure and routine. So that's what I see when I first come in, the physical routines that are in place. But then Miss Castro has such a way about her to get kids to, one, feel comfortable, know they're loved, and then really hit them hard with the curriculum. There's lots of high-level questioning. We have embraced something called response to literature at our school. And she's very good at getting kids to get beyond those initial questions up to some critical thinking where they might look at a book and think about, well, why did the illustrator draw that the way they did? Or why did the author choose that word? So there's a lot of heavy-duty thinking going on, and it's always interesting to ask the kids their perspectives. We try to dig it out of them rather than telling them. Just tell us a little bit more about what you're thinking. So she uses so many of those strategies to really deepen the understanding of students, and it's so apparent her kids do well.
Well, and just thinking about what you were saying about asking children, why do you think that the illustrator drew it that way? Why do you think that character chose that path rather than a different path? Because then, like you said, they're developing those critical thinking skills, those comparative skills, plus they can kind of develop in their own head how they think this story should end. And I'm sure you project out, well, what do you think is going to happen? Predicting,
yeah.
What's going to happen. Are the answers that they come up with in the predicting just all over the place?
They can be. There's always one or two that's kind of seems like it's out in left field.
A Stanley Kubrick kind of person.
They do have some of those, but for the most part, I think they're so used to that kind of story structure that they come up with an ending that would actually really would make sense.
Yeah,
most of them do.
Yeah. Before we were beginning, you were talking about a project that you applied for, and you were awarded kits so that students can use some technology in their classroom. Talk about that, and it's not new technology, but it's new in the classroom.
It'll be new to us. We're going to learn about it tomorrow, actually. We're getting turning technology response cards. So each student will have an individual kind of remote control, and it will be programmed through the teacher computer. So anytime that I ask a question, they can all respond, and then the computer will track how many responses, what their responses are, how long it takes them to respond, and it just is a way to give all the students a chance to really answer every question.
Oh, sure. Will it be kind of a multiple choice?
It can be multiple choice.
You program it, in other words.
Right,
You program
you can program
it.
the questions however you want, yes. It could be true, false, multiple choice. There's some that I don't know how well it would work for first grade where they can type short responses.
Sure.
But it will at least, it'll give them all a chance to pick an answer for any question. That could be for any subject.
I'm just curious, would there maybe be icons where they could, or is it all going to be in writing? In other words, yes, no, like black, white, that kind of thing?
The questions, I could even just ask a question orally, and then they would have their choice of answers. And on the card itself, I think they have a 1, 2, 3, and they would put their answer.
What were you going to say something about that?
It looks kind of like a digital phone. Where you just touch what the answer is, whether it be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and then it has A, B, C, D. And then they could, in the older grades, they can even text their answers.
Sure. Because they already do that anyway.
Sure, but I'm not so sure that
I don't know.
Our
first
graders, and it's kind of the old texting technology where you have to hit A to get C. You have to hit that A, B, C.
Right.
3 times. So I don't think our first graders will be doing that. But it is an opportunity to manage response rates and make sure that everybody has an opportunity. It keeps kids engaged and on their feet.
And that's what I was thinking. It's kind of like a group. I'm sure that they're going to be just having fun.
Oh, it should be really exciting.
Exactly. So that might interest them in other kinds of technology and other kinds of scientific kind of things.
I hope so. I'm really looking forward to learning about it and
that's
trying it out with them.
Yeah, that you have the innovation to go out and apply for it and try to get it and bring it in. With first graders, of course, we talked about skill levels coming in, but by the time they leave your classroom, are there, in your philosophy of how you prepare students to go to the next level, because at first grade they're all going to be going, we hope, to the next level. Are there several skills or qualities that to you are the most important that you want to ensure you've helped them get there?
Definitely. We definitely want them to be reading. I really focus on growth. If they're moving up in their reading levels, if they're learning more words, and setting goals for themselves so that they can achieve that. But reading, first grade is really a very important reading year. So we spend a lot of time focusing on reading comprehension and word recognition and decoding.
How about social skills? Are there, to make sure that they understand there is a way to operate in a classroom? But your principal, Ms. Heisman, was saying that you already have that done. Nothing's perfect, but when she comes in your room, it looks very organized. It looks like the students know what's expected of them. They're not running all over the place.
Well, that's what I try to give a really routine environment, because I think that will give me the best behavior so that I can get the most out of them with the curriculum. But we definitely set all the behavior expectations out beforehand, and we're a PBS school, so we focus on rewarding positive behavior from the students. And so then after we establish those kinds of routines for behavior, then with academics and even within academic structures, like when they're reading with a partner, they're learning social skills with letting the other person talk and listening and then being able to respond to what the person says. We do a lot when they're reading what they've written, where we talk about things that we liked about it, and we try to give them some suggestions for how they can improve. So I think we kind of try to build in social skills within the academics that we're working on.
Absolutely. You mentioned PBS, and some of our audience may not understand what that means. The acronym is Positive Behavior Support?
Yes.
Okay. Talk a little bit about that. Rather, it's a really strong philosophy about rewarding positive behavior rather than negative. In other words, rather than a student getting in trouble for something wrong, it's rewarding them for doing something well.
Right. We do positive behavior for our discipline structure. We have Dolphin Dollars, which are a card that the students use as rewards, and when they follow one of our school-wide expectations, they can be given a reward by any adult in the school, and then they earn rewards so that they can purchase, whether it be actual items. We have a PBS store. They can purchase books. They can purchase the chance to have an event like eating lunch on the stage.
Or eating lunch with the principal.
Eating lunch with the principal is one. I think that's $100.
That's top notch.
Starting to add up.
What do you enjoy about teaching the most, Ms. Castro?
I enjoy interacting with the students the most. I like hearing about their days. I like when we get a story and they can tell me something from the story that relates to their life.
That's interesting, because that makes it come alive to them.
Yeah,
It means something.
It means more
them.
to them that way.
And then that they know, there's other kids in the world that think like they do. What do they like to read? I mean, is it chapter books? It's not chapter books, but I mean, with pictures, I guess, associated. Because like you were saying, why did they illustrate? I really like that you talk about, why do you think the illustrator did that?
You have to come to our
I was
training.
Gonna say, I'd
we
love
have some excellent questions that we ask kids.
I'd love to hear their answers to that. It's like there's a couple of commercials on TV right now. Is fast better or slow better? Well, fast is better. Well, why? Well, because it is. Well, it's been really a pleasure to get to know you and talk with you. Congratulations on being selected to represent a fabulous faculty at Floresta.
Thank you very much.
There's a lot of stability at your school, and you have a wonderful principal, Ms. Heisman, too. She's a great asset to you as well.
Thank you.
So thank you, and thanks to the both of you. Lucky. Okay, we're going to be right back with another teacher, so please stay tuned.
What does it take to start something? A little time. A little exercise. A little laugh. A little adventure. A little help. That's all it takes to make a big impact.
As he always talks about, he had people in his life that really helped him out, and he wants to be that person in my life.
Just like he is, I was like that at 14. I know exactly what it means to be a 14-year-old guy.
I think that's why we have a good relationship.
It's fun and cool and nice.
You get to see like how personality develops.
Our friendship is good.
At Big Brothers Big Sisters, a little bit of your support can go a long way towards making matches like these happen. Start something today at bigbrothersbigsisters.org/startsomething.
Welcome back, and now from St. Lucie West Centennial High School, we have Liz Durkee, who she does so much for that school and those children, particularly through the HOSA program, and we're going to talk about that. But also Kim Stefanik, the principal there, who is new to our district as an administrator. We've known you for years, but this is your first year as principal at Centennial, so your first time really getting to know Liz and all that she does. So thanks to both of you for being here. You're our last group. We, as you said, saved the best till last.
That's right. That's right.
So Liz, for those in our community who might not know you, talk a little bit about what you do at Centennial. And we only have 15 minutes, so.
I
I'm not sure she can fit it all in. I know.
I started working at Centennial when it was open.
Okay.
And
so that's in 2000?
1998.
1998, okay.
And that was with Jim Sullivan. And he hired me to be the only teacher there of the medical program.
Right.
And for those people who don't really understand the medical program, a lot of us grew up knowing vocational high schools.
Right.
And what St. Lucie County does, and many schools in Florida do, is they integrate those now career and tech programs into the regular academic day.
Right.
So my program is for kids who are interested in a medical career.
Right. Of which there are many. And your program and others at schools throughout St. Lucie County and throughout Florida. What's amazing is that students can go through your program or any one of our career and technical programs and actually be qualified for a good paying job when they walk out the door. They can continue on to work through college or college through work, as we say.
Yeah.
But it's such an opportunity that I don't really think our community understands, that the wealth of opportunities that students have, because I'll frequently be in the community and people will say, where's the we don't have any vocational programs. Right. Well, yes, we do. We may not, it's not centered in one school, it's in all of our traditional high schools. So how many, and I know this is a question probably off the top of your head, you can tell me, how many careers can your students qualify for when they go through your program? 10, 12?
They take what they call industry certification tests.
Okay.
And industry certification tests mean they meet the very strict criteria of that industry to say, I know what I'm doing and I should be paid for it. The kids are certified nurse assisting trained.
CNA, okay.
So they get certified by the Board of Nursing in Florida.
Okay.
We have EKG certification. We have
Those are good paying jobs to be an EKG specialist.
Right, but an EKG technician actually right now in the field is more somebody that's cross-trained to do many jobs.
Right,
so
could be a paramedic, could be, right.
Right, now we just blended it into a medical assisting program.
Oh, okay.
So that's another certification that they can get. And also home health aid right now. We also have a program for first responders for the kids that like to ride fire trucks and ambulances and work in emergency rooms. So,
and God bless them, because I couldn't do that. Yeah. So, how in the years that you've been at Centennial, which is now I guess almost 15, how would you say those programs have evolved? And because you've been on the ground, and you're the one that has to implement the changes that have come along. They've become a lot more, I think, sophisticated and professional.
Absolutely.
Because they're now certificated.
Absolutely. And I think that many parents are just now realizing that we have these programs, and the word gets out when our kids are coming in from 8th grade, you know, that we have these programs, and the parents push them towards us because they know that those are high-paying jobs,
right,
and that those are jobs that are in demand that pretty much never go away.
Well, and with an aging population, those are jobs that are going to not only continue to be there, but are going to expand. Having my mom having to have a home health aide, it really gave me an expanded appreciation for not only the medical knowledge that students have to have, but also the heart they have to have.
Right.
And you can't really teach that.
No, we call it soft skills, and it's hard to explain to the kids, but you know, many kids have that heart. And the great thing is, my partner Mary and I, Mary Higgins, we get to know the kids really well. So by the time they're juniors and seniors with us, you know, they
you can kind of guide them into the specialty that they may be qualified for. Now, how does because it's an academy, but they also have to take core subjects. And they have to take core subjects that sophomores will be tested on for FCAT, etc. How do you think being in the environment that they're interested in? I mean, they wouldn't be in the medical academy if they didn't think maybe that they might be interested in that world. How do you think that helps them kind of focus their learning on the core subjects as well?
Well, I think they're among like-minded individuals. And, you know, at Centennial we have, you know, groups of kids in science and technology, for example, who take the same core classes with the same core teachers. So many of them are in the same AP or, you know, the same dual enrollment classes. And they really, I can't really say that they try to step over each other, but they try to help each other find which teacher is good at the college for what class, and just with work and books, they're great.
Right.
So I think that helps a lot.
So that means they're taking dual enrollment as well? Yes, a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have a junior-senior class of 27 kids, and I believe 15 of them are in dual enrollment, and probably the other, well, about 10 of them are also in AP classes.
Right.
So.
And those that are in dual enrollment may have their AA degree before they graduate high school.
Yes,
at no cost
they
to
do.
them, which is incredible.
And
amazing.
The other thing is, the wonderful thing about our industry certifications is we have it set right now where our programs pay for themselves. So last year's class is paying for this year's industry certification test.
Oh, great.
And for example, the CNA test is over $180 right now.
Oh, wow.
So
how do they do that? How do they pay? Is that like fundraising things they do?
It's state funded.
Actually, there's an incentive and reward program through the state so that every student who passes an industry certification, and there's a weighted formula, but those dollars come back to the school district, back to the programs to continue to support students who are pursuing those rigorous
That's
programs.
great.
Yeah.
When you go visit Ms. Durkee's classroom, which I know you do frequently, number one, you have to, but I'm sure you do because you like to. You guys seem to have a symmetry between you.
We dressed alike tonight.
The kids love her.
The kids love her. I know they do. I know they do.
She gets on the intercom in the morning and...
Well, she gets it, you know? She gets it.
They get her, she gets them. So.
Right. So tell me what you see when you visit her classroom.
Liz Durkee makes me smile because of what she does with kids and for kids. You know, there's no question. One of the things we know about adolescents is that when they see a purpose for learning, they're more likely to learn and they're more likely to step up. What Liz and Mary do in the Medical Academy is they provide kids with an opportunity, with a realistic, real-world opportunity to apply the skills that they've learned in a classroom. So when I see her students walking on campus in their medical, what do we call those? Scrubs. And they're really proud. And they're embroidered with, you know, Centennial's logo.
Or they have their Hosa jackets on.
Or their Hosa jackets. You know, that's one of my fondest memories early in the year. I was on my golf cart headed somewhere, and I just had to hit the brakes because there was Liz with lots of kids who I didn't recognize and teachers who I didn't recognize, and pillows and blankets and suitcases. They were
going somewhere.
They were going like on a leadership retreat, and it was a collaborative effort among all of our high schools that have medical programs through the state HOSA organization, where Liz is not only a leader within our district, but at the regional and state levels. She's the chairperson of the board of directors of the state HOSA program. So, you know, clearly her leadership, her commitment, and her passion is recognized in our building and appreciated by virtue of the fact that her peers nominated and selected her as our representative as Teacher of the Year.
Right.
But even beyond our building, you know, Liz is the face of Centennial in many places within our community and throughout the state because of her role in HOSA and because of the partnerships she's built with healthcare facilities in the community.
Right. And one of the things I really admire about you, Liz, I won't talk about you around you, but one of the things I really admire about you is how you celebrate your kids.
Yeah.
You really celebrate those students and their accomplishments. And the fact that you have the opportunity to do that is fantastic as well. But the fact that and they know you do. They know you do because I know when their picture appears on the website or in the newsletter, you know, they really acknowledge that.
When I send those, I always say to the kids, put your name down it. You wrote the article. I don't write those articles.
Right. Well,
they write the articles.
They write them, and I acknowledge
they're the
them
photographers.
So. It's amazing. My other fond memory of Liz and her students is I was at a
she's worried about this.
I was at a principal's meeting and walked into our personnel office, and there were like 20 of our kids, and they're like
during the school day.
During the school day, and they're like, "There's our principal." And my first thought was, "Oh my goodness, what did they do?" And then I went, "Stop! They were there to get fingerprinted through our HR office,
right?
Because they needed to do that in order to do their work in a local nursing home.
Right.
And
they
so
have to have the background check.
Right. So that's, you know, Liz just takes care of whatever it is that her kids need in order to be successful, and they are, and they appreciate it.
Do you have any idea of how many students have gone through your program since '98? I mean, thousands and thousands, I'm sure.
Well,
I can
tell you.
Do the math.
Well, I don't know about the math, but I can tell you I have one that's an orthopedic surgeon.
Oh, really? Here locally?
I didn't know.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. She's up in Philadelphia.
Wow.
I have one who's in his residency for cardiothoracic surgery.
Wow.
He's done with UM Medical School. I have one that's graduating medical school this coming May. And I just had one come back at Christmas time who just started medical school out in St. Louis.
Wow.
So, I mean, and I have pharmacists, I have nurses, I have
CNAs.
Oh, yeah, I have X-ray techs, I have physical therapy
Well, that
assistants.
6 degrees of separation doesn't apply to you. You got how many thousands of degrees?
It's like having many kids.
Wow.
Well, and that's great, and they come back to you. See, that's also the big mark as to you were the one that put them on the road to success. So, how can you tell? I mean, with medical training, I would think. You know, what we really love as educators is seeing that light bulb go on, you know, when you know they get it. Does that happen in such a technical situation
Absolutely.
as you have?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They, you know, they really, we have to go through the basics. You know, we have to read and talk about hand washing, but, you know, for instance, we have a black light and we have glow germ, and we can actually see where the germs still are on your fingers.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. So, you know, we have all those little experiences. Plus, our kids get to do internships. And that's something that's built into the curriculum that the state provides to us. And it's just maintaining the relationships out in the community. And when I was hired, Mr. Sullivan said, you know, what contacts do you have out in the community? And I said, I work for Martin Memorial.
Oh, there you go.
And so I said, you know, so I have a pretty good idea of the people that run that facility. So
well, and what they need in an intern as well, on both sides of that equation.
Right. So it's just nice, but I can walk into dentist offices and, you know, get the kids to be able to intern there, and I can the fire department and get them to intern there, and pharmacies and get them to intern there.
That's
you
great.
know, as well as we use St. Lucie West Martin Memorial facility, so I've seen it go from this big to this big, and they are wonderful with us.
Well, you're such an asset to Centennial High School as well as to the district and the community as well.
Absolutely.
So thanks for taking a few minutes to come and talk to us. And
thank you.
And congratulations for representing your peers at Centennial.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks to you for taking time to come here as well.
It's a privilege.
Thank you. And we hope that you've enjoyed meeting our Teachers of the Year candidates. And we'll see you soon.